Hey guys, how's it going? Morning. Cheers. How's everybody's Sunday? Hope you're well. What happened this week? Well, the other day I crashed in on the Tone Talk party and they had Steve Lukather on. It was awesome. Another great episode with Steve. It's the second one. I guess they didn't get to a bunch of stuff they wanted to talk about the first time, so then they did another one. And they still didn't get to a bunch of stuff that they wanted to talk about. But it's always fascinating, always great to hear him, bestow his knowledge upon us. Move the mic a little closer here. It's a little far away. What happened this week? I did a video for the new Jack White pedal. I came out on. I put out that video on Monday, and it's really cool. Let me get it. Might as well. Mess in here today, by the way, but it's always kind of a mess in here. But it's an extra mess in here today. They asked me to, when I did the video, to do like an unboxing thing, which I always hate doing. But then I understood when I opened it, actually. And they said, the first time you open it, just shoot it on video. Because it is such a unique pedal. But also, this package, I mean, they put a lot of time into this. It comes with this book, first of all, which is like details the whole process of developing this pedal and how they've, not only the electronics, but the some of the most interesting stuff is about the telegraph style keys that are on the pedal, which they make themselves. They couldn't find one that was robust enough to use. They would send prototypes to Jack, and then he'd kick them around and start beating them up, and they would break, and that wasn't acceptable. So then they were like, well, we're gonna have to make a lot of this stuff ourselves, and so they came up with the keys themselves, and then this sort of like ferrule or whatever that they slip into for the actual switch. So I can just show you because I have one. So like all this stuff they actually fabricate and make themselves so that it's robust and isn't going to break. Because I'm sure would be the first thing a lot of people would ask is, well, how long are those keys going to last? But they're like super solid the way that they. That was a primary concern of theirs, and this thing took 4 years to develop, evidently. So all this piece and the key itself and this stuff, they do it all themselves. Pretty amazing. A lot of commitment to making a pedal. So for those that didn't see the video, you can check it out, but it's got an octave up, octave down, and then this switch in the middle does different stuff. It can either function as a kill switch, so it'll take the dry signal out completely. So if you don't have either of these on, you could use it as like a kill stutter effect to do stuttery stuff. It's got a secondary function, though, that you can switch in with this switch right here. It turns on this effects loop, and then the center switch becomes a switch to switch that in. So now you can have a flanger on the sound, or a tremolo, as I did in the video, or a fuzz, as I did in the video. Whatever you want, whatever you can think of to put in there, you can have a momentary effect. Now, these two outside switches for the octaves can be switched to be either momentary or latching. So that means you can either hold it down and then it shuts off as soon as you release, or latching will flip the switch and then it turns on like a normal pedal, push it again to turn it off. If that makes sense. So that was really cool. Great pedal. And I ended up using a new drum. A lot of people ask me about drums, how I do drums. I ended up using a new drum plugin called the Butch Vig drums, it's called. And it's actually for contact player, for Native Instruments contact player. And I barely know how to use it, but I figured it out enough to make some music with it. So that's the drums in the video, and I love the way it sounded. And I have Butch's email, so I actually emailed him and said, hey, you don't know me, but I was in touch through doing some other. We both made presets for the new Native Instruments Guitar Rig 6 plugin, which is the next thing I was going to mention. But so anyways, I had his email and I emailed him, and he was like, wow, this video is fantastic and that pedal's amazing and stuff. And so now we're in touch, which is really, really nice, because I'm a big Butch Vig fan from all his production work through Garbage and stuff. And so it was really cool. And then, Guitar Rig 6, that's the other video I put out this week. So for anybody that's used Guitar Rig, I go way back with Guitar Rig, all the way to like 2004. It was one of the first guitar modeling things, plugins, anything like that, besides a pod or whatever, that I ever tried. And I used to use it with a load box. I would use either a hot plate or a or a Weber Mass, if anybody remembers those, to load amps down. And then I'd run into my computer and I thought, well, maybe if I can just disable the amp simulation and in this plugin and then just use the speaker simulation, and it worked. And I got some pretty cool sounds that way, actually. I remember I still have some recordings I made actually using that setup. And so anyway, I go way back with Guitar Rig. And so they asked me to make some presets. So there's, I think, 8 or 9 or 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that presets I made for them. And you can hear them all in the video. And then if you have Native Instruments Guitar Rig 6, they're included. And it can either be bought as an upgrade if you've got Guitar Rig 5. I think it's like $100 or something, $99 or something, or you can buy it as a standalone, plug-in. It's great. Works really well. There's a lot of competition out there these days and stuff, but it holds its own. It sounds really good. As I think you can hear in the video, I was really happy. So that was this week for videos. Leon Barron is up there in the super chat. What's up, dude? How you doing? Great demo on the Ambicab. Thanks, man. Thinking of using it with an HX Stomp, but it only has 2 parallel paths. Any tips on where to place the reverb, delay, and modulation with only 2 paths? If you've got 2 paths and you want to have 3 separate things, I see what you're saying. It's tough. I like modulated delay. So it's like, I know it's not exactly the same, but it's like modulation on delay gives you that. It's its own effect, I guess. It's not like having a detune, separate thing. But if you just modulate the delay, it's pretty damn cool. As soon as the delay kicks in, your sound basically gets modulated. So that I would probably, in lieu of, if you've only got 2 parallel paths and you really want modulation, that's what I would do. You can also, of course, modulate reverbs, which is a more subtle sound that isn't, you don't perceive it as much as a modulated delay as chorusing or something, but it gives depth to the sound. I always modulate reverbs. So you got to kind of pick one or the other. But interesting question, though. I'll be interested to see what you think when you give it a try and how it works out. The Ambicab is a really cool product. Not, similar to this octave pedal. It's a unique product. I guess everything that I kind of did over the last 2 weeks is pretty unique products. It's not like a distortion pedal or whatever. It's like some different stuff, and that's cool to see because you'd think everything's been done, but maybe not. Some really great effects in Guitar Rig as well. I will say, that's always been known for doing kind of good ambient effecty sounds. It does good dry sounds too, but the reverbs and the delays and the compressors and stuff are really nice. And using the splitters and stuff, you can do some amazing things. And I tried to do a little bit of that in my. There's probably other guitar players out there that have created presets for it that have done more of that. But I do have a couple of the ambient, where it's like guitar starts in one side and washes across the stereo field and stuff, and has some things like that going on. And Guitar Rig is great for stuff like that. Really, really, really good. Okay. Who else we got here? Ben's in the house. Thanks for being here, Ben, my faithful moderator. Hi from Holland, Speedster. Hi from Chicago. And we got UK in the house. And what else? What's the white amp head in the background? That's a Laboga head from Poland. It's a 50-watt amp that's kind of like a modded Marshall-y vibe with a clean channel and then a dirty channel that you can kind of tweak and do different things with. They sent it to me a while ago to check out and stuff. And it is pretty cool. It's kind of like in the vein of probably a BE50 or something. Yeah. What else we got going on here? What else? Got Germany in the house. Let's see. Talk about the magic about Marshall and Les Pauls with PAFs. Well, I don't know. Everybody from, I guess, Eric Clapton onwards, it's a magic sound. I don't know. Something about the slightly more powerful pickups and then an amp that would overdrive a little sooner, and rock and roll was born. or at least the sound of, I guess rock and roll was born before that, but it pushed it into another realm when all of a sudden you could get that sustain and feedback and all that. And it's just magic. You know, Angus Young, you know, everybody that used a Gibson type guitar with those good old pickups that weren't too hot, and then a nice amp that would overdrive. One amp that I don't have around here really is a JTM 45. I do have it sort of in my top hat in Plexibor. That's not doing it. It's service and Plexidor. It's down there. This amp has it's a great old amp, man. The Implexidor. It's got different Marshall front ends built in, so it's fairly versatile. And you're supposed to be able to get kind of like JTM 45, Plexi, and then a modern kind of thing. By modern, I mean, you know, it was made in '98, so not exactly modern. But and I remember asking Friedman once, what is the modern kind of, because it's got a gain boost in it, and I said, what is the circuit? Is it like? And he said, it's not really like anything. It's kind of like maybe sort of like almost like the Slash amp, like the Appetite for Destruction amp, more than anything, anything else that's currently made. Anyways, it's a really cool sounding amp. That what was my point? My point was you can get a JTM 45 style front end with it, flip a switch, and it goes to more like the Plexi 68 Plexi sort of circuit. So the difference is, and then it's got a pull bright, so that switches in a bright cap, which makes it more like a early 70s Marshall. So it's a nice way that I can get all those different flavors. But I don't really have a JTM 45 around here, a true one with tube rectifier and, you know, KT66s and all that stuff, and that would be something that would be cool to have eventually. Couple folks up there in the super chat. Mr. I'm gonna put on my glasses, it'll be easier for me to read. Mr. Anderson 59. Mr. Anderson just picked up a DC2W. Is that a Waza? You're talking about the Boss, right? Can't figure out if it sounds better before or after my analog delay, usually on the SDD 320 setting. Just wondering if you had any particular preference. A DC2W, that's the, we're talking about a chorus, right? That's the DC2W. Sorry, my brain's still waking up. So the names are, is that the Waza? Yeah, the Dimension, right? So I did a video for that pedal. Great sounding pedal. I would use it in front of the delay. That's the one where I played, I did Flesh for Fantasy in the video, and I tried to just nail it. I used a Kemper with a Rockman profile. I remember, which is what Steve used. He used a Rockman on the original recording with 2 compressors and a volume pedal and a Dimension to get that sound on the original Billy Idol record. Anyway, yeah, I would use it in front of the delay. Generally speaking, I like, but there's no right or wrong. Maybe it'll sound good after, you know. It could sound great after, whatever sounds good to you. I just generally run chorus and then delay and then reverb. That's my standard sort of thing. So that's my preference. Thanks for doing the top chat. Chris Quinn is also there. Let's highlight his comment. He says, what high power speaker sounds like most like a blackback to you? A creamback, scumback? Yeah, I mean, I would have to say that probably if you're going for historical accuracy, the maybe the scumbacks have the most, you know, are going to be the closest to the actual real deal, just in the sense of, you know, he goes really into that, down those rabbit holes of, like, you know, recreating what exactly a blackback was as opposed to a greenback, which is not actually a hell of a lot of difference. You know, it's just like little differences. Something happened with the paper or something in '73. There was like you guys heard about this? There was like a fire at Celestion or something. Am I making this up? I don't think I am. I don't know if it was a fire, but something happened with the and then they couldn't do the paper the same or something. I mean, somebody correct me on this. But anyway, so there's a slight difference between the later '70s and then everything that came before when it comes to Celestions and stuff like the cones and all that, because of this change. So if it was a Celestion speaker, that'd be closest to a black back, just a greenback, honestly. I mean, just to be honest, just a standard, the run of the mill, the one that's made in China, you know. Although I heard that they were shifting all the production of them back to the UK. I don't know if that ever happened or not. I heard that years ago, like a couple of years ago at least. So that could be the case. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that yeah, I think that you know, probably the standard Chinese greenback would be the best. Okay, what else we got here? Cup of Noodle says, you seem like you never run out of ideas. How do you maintain your musical imagination? What advice do you have for me to broaden mine? You know, I guess the first things that came to mind when you asked me that are I've got a studio, which is nice, but it doesn't have to be this. I mean, I used to really be creative in my little home studio, which you guys saw a lot in videos that I did a couple of years ago. I don't really have my home setup going right now to the point where I'm happy with it at my current place where I live because I moved. So I'm always here working, which I need to fix because I like playing at home and I play less because of that, actually. So that's a bummer. So I got to get that going. I guess case in point, like to my point, you need to make a comfortable setup for yourself, first of all, so that the path from A to B, which is A is when you sit down with the guitar and whatever your setup is to write or whatever you want to do, track a song or something, to B, which is the finished thing, the least amount of complications in the middle of those two things is really important, I think. So having a little home setup that you can turn on and get up and running within like 3 minutes, you know, where all of a sudden you're making music, you can get some drums up and have some guitar sounds going that are inspiring stuff, is really great. So that you want to sit down and play. It's not this ordeal to, you know, plug things in every time. Why is this not working? And all that stuff, just anything that gets in the way is a problem. So I was really inspired by Tim Pierce to do this place because of the way that he's got his cabs isolated and mic'd and a amp switcher, and he's got his little zone there where you can sit down and just get to work right away. And so that's a big thing. Make it easy on yourself. Doesn't have to be a lot of stuff. Simple recording interface. That's why we made the PT-15, to be honest, you know. It's a head that you can take the direct out, plug into the interface. You got a great mic'd up sound there. Done, you know. Plug your pedal board in if you've got pedals. Get ready to go, you know, turn it on and you're ready to go in minutes. You know, the simplest, you know, really honestly, that's what we're trying to do with that thing, is great tools to get work done, you know, so that you're inspired and you want to play and it sounds good and get that stuff out of the way. And then beyond that, I always recommend jamming to drums. You know, if you're not inspired, put on a drum loop. So like if I sit down and write or whatever, I'll sit down, I might have a riff idea or something, just one riff. That's it. You know, a little like, and then I'll throw up some drums. I need to do a video on it because everybody's always asking me how I do drums and stuff. And I need to just, I guess, do it. And, you know, maybe just camera in the room, fly on the wall stuff, just film it camera audio style as I'm sitting down, getting drums going, and, or maybe just live stream it or something, like just which is scary, like the thought of live streaming the writing process, because, you know, there's mistakes and crap involved, but maybe I just should do that and then you could see. But honestly, that's it. Getting drums going quickly with a groove inspires me, and then I've got something to play to, and then I find the ideas take off and go further from there. So great recording setup that's simple, you know, simple little interface and like an amp, or even if it's a modeler or whatever you've got, you know, make it easy to plug in and get stuff going, and then get some good drum software that you learn how to use. You know, Easy Drummer 2 is fantastic. Tune Track, easy to use, great to get good sounds, and then jam to that. Before you know it, you know, you can be inspired to get some stuff done. So I hope that's helpful. James is in the super duper chat. He's in Canada. And hi, James. I miss Canada. He says, I have a 68 Princeton Reverb reissue. Any suggestions for mods? Is it the silver one? Because I have that same one. I haven't done anything to it, to be honest. A mod might be a bright switch on a toggle, or like a push-pull volume, so that you could do a bright cap, because I find it's a little dark, but it's a good sound, you know. It's just it doesn't have that super duper sparkle. So that would be probably the one that I've thought about, you know, honestly, as a simple push-pull volume with the bright cap to kind of give it a Fendery sparkle for certain tones. Of course, then sometimes tends to not work as well with certain pedals. So it'd be nice to have it on a switch. You could, speaker that comes with it, maybe you could experiment with. Sounds good with whatever's in it. I don't even remember what, I think it's a Celestion of some sort that's in it, but that would be a simple one. Probably great would be an Alnico Gold. Easy mod, just get an Alnico Gold and you can pop it in yourself almost. Those speakers sound great. The 10's one of the nicer speakers that Celestion makes. Or if you want it to crunch up really, really cool, maybe a greenback, because I love their 10-inch greenback. But I would think a gold and a bright switch on this little amp, because I'm looking at mine right now, I'm staring at it. But that'd really open up some possibilities, I think. And we're talking about very simple reversible mods that don't affect the originality of the amplifier. You can always put it back. Yeah. What is the one tone you've always wanted but haven't got yet, says L. Scott Music? That's an interesting question. God. Well, like I was saying earlier, JTM 45 would be a nice thing to have around. What else? There's not a lot, to be honest, that I feel like I haven't been able to get, because it's really, if you got the right combo of stuff. I mean, even like Stevie Ray Vaughan, to be honest, I tried a Vibroverb once, an original 60s one. It was Lyle Workman's with the 63 Strat, I think it was. And when I played that, I was like, oh my God, that's it. There it is. Like you play a, beautiful, open, whatever, what's the first chord in Lenny or something, and you play it and then you go like, oh, there it is. That's the sound. Just add a tube screamer and a wah. Now, if I only had the hands, but you can get the impression that there it is. There's the tonal DNA, for at least from the gear, because that's kind of a bit of an elusive one. But really, I feel like it has a lot to do with the Vibroverb. What we think of as Stevie Ray Vaughan tone, like you can get really, really great tones with the super reverb that are really close to that too. And he indeed did play a super reverb a lot of the time, sometimes with the Vibroverb. Both of them, or sometimes it was two Vibroverbs. That's really hard to say. Vibroverb. But anyway, what's my point? Yeah. So, but you put the Vibroverb in the mix with the 15, and it's a different thing with the 15, and then you go, oh my God, there it is. There's that big, blooming, beautiful. They're kind of slow, a 15, and yet it's got sparkle, and it's got this really, I don't know, it's magic. Like, it's just different to a 12 as a 10 is to a 12. It's got its own thing. And if you have never played one, try one with a Strat, and you just go like, oh, damn, turn it on 4 and turn the volume down a bit and play around, and it's really amazing. So I don't know. Between that and I feel like Brian May, I've pretty much experienced that. It's like, yep, use the right treble booster and the right AC30, and I've got one of the guitars that, oh shit, there it is, it does that thing. Even, Van Halen, if you do the right formula of stuff, it's like you just have to have the hands to kind of nail it at least closely, so you can get the, like, am I close? And then you're like, if you can play a few of the licks and stuff properly and with the attack and stuff, and then you're like, oh, there it is. I don't know. There's any other guitar players that I have to think about it. But what's been my go-to reverb, says Shade Hope. Like for a guitar on my pedal board, generally speaking, I use the H9, and in the H9 I'll use the black hole algorithm for anything ambient. And if I'm doing, it's got a great spring reverb in it too, so I'll use the H9 for spring, ambient, or kind of a much more subtle hall, and that's kind of it on my board. I also had MXR, that M300 I think it's called, pedal in front for a while, although I haven't had it on there for a while, but that's a great pedal as well. So for like pedal board reverb, that's been my thing for a number of years now. But that said, if I'm recording, many times I'll do the reverbs with a plugin in the computer. It's just easier. And for that, I tend to gravitate towards, if I just want a room that sounds natural, I'll use a Ocean Way Studios plugin from UA, which is a really amazing room plugin that simulates the rooms of Ocean Way, using some sort of convolution where they went and captured them, I think. It's not IRs, but it's different, but similar, really realistic rooms. And then if it's more a reverb kind of thing with a plug-in, well, okay, another great one is the Capital Chambers from UA, which is like if you want ambient in the box or any kind of like long, gorgeous thing, the Capital Chambers, as well as the AKG spring reverb. If nobody's tried that and they're a reverb fan, use UA, try that AKG. It's like unbelievable sounding. It's like the deepest, densest spring that you can possibly imagine. You know, it's just like I don't know. It's a wonderful reverb for using on guitars, on vocals, and anything you want to kind of make sound sort of old or anything you want to warm up. That Capital Chambers is incredible. And it's simulating the chamber reverbs, the room. I think that's what it's called, right? Capital Chambers reverb, right? I just want to make sure I've got the name right. I'm pretty sure that I do. Double check here. Capital Chambers. Capital Chambers plugin. That's it. So it's simulating actual room reverbs at the Capitol Studios here in Los Angeles. 10 minutes from me right now. But yeah, you know, the microphones in an actual room where they used to put speakers. For folks that aren't that familiar with recording, maybe they don't know, like a lot of the studios, yes, they'd have big giant plates. Actual plates is plate reverb, right? Like big metal plates. And then, you know, that they vibrate it or whatever, and it creates a reverb effect. That's how plates were done. But a chamber reverb is an actual room with speakers in it. And the aux send on the desk would send whatever the track you'd recorded. It'll send some of that out through those speakers in a room and capture the room sound with microphones. So it's a really, really, really cool, amazing way to, you know, in a big studio. Wow. But that's the way they used to do it all the time, right? They got these great rooms at Capitol that, you know, and so the plugin simulates it beautifully, and it's got multiple different mic settings and EQ and stuff. So I'll use that quite a bit. And yeah, I enjoy. Is there a way for all pedals to turn on when powering up my board? Some pedals are always off until I step on them. I want them all on because I use a pedal looper. I know what you mean, and I have the same issue. Although I think most of the pedals on my board don't do that right now. I'm lucky. I have had what you've been talking about in the past, where the pedal's not active when you turn it on. You want to store it in that state. I don't understand what does that or not. That would be a question for somebody like Friedman, but I know what you mean. No, my answer is no. Sorry, I got to highlight the other questions here as I'm moving between them. That's Stephen Douglas. Whether or not you can mod a pedal to do that, I don't know. I don't know if you want to go through that expense. I know that it's a pain in the ass, and I agree. It's like sometimes you say, which ones have we got to turn on? I think phase 90 not always turn on. I can't remember, but yeah, just some are like that for some reason. I don't know why. Eric Johnson says, can you tell us about your Martin acoustic? It's a D28 Marquee. It was a gift from Chris Cornell. I got it in 2012. Yeah, it's just like I'd helped him out a lot with the studio over the years and home studio stuff and different things, you know, and, you know, guitar rig things and all kinds of stuff. And then he called me one day when I was at work at my old studio in Santa Monica, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just working on some stuff here." And he said, "Can you come over?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I can come over in like an hour or something." And he lived in Bel Air at the time, so it wasn't that far away. So, I drove over there, and he was in front of the house playing basketball with his kid. And he's like, "Hey, just a second." He ran in the house and he walked out with a guitar case. And he goes, "This is for you," you know. And I was like, wow, like I didn't know what to say really. I was, because he knew I wanted one, because he had some and I'd admired his before, his Martins, and I said, maybe you can, you know, hook me up with an artist guy there someday. I can buy one through them or something. And he said, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." So he knew it was, I guess I'd mentioned that to him, you know. And then, you know, but a long time went by and stuff, and then he gave me this guitar, and I was just, I still feel to this day like maybe I was so shocked, and I was like, "Dude, I don't know what to say." Like, and he's like, "Oh, just," he was kind of shy about it, you know. He's like, "Oh, just take it and, enjoy or whatever. And I just I was like, man, this is like the nicest thing anybody's ever given me. But I still feel like that's like I maybe wasn't like, how it is. You're like, could I have said more or shown my appreciation more? Anyway, it was really sweet, and it's a great D28, and I've used it on a lot of stuff. Most recently, I guess I used it with his daughter on a version of Pearl Jam's Black that was for the virtual Lollapalooza event. So, comes full circle, I guess. But it's a great D28, and I'm really lucky to have it. That is for sure. Okay, what else we got here? Christopher Butler is asking about Scumbacks, but I don't think he finished his. Oh, an actual guy, I think is what he's saying, right? Sometimes these spellings that these kids use these days, I don't get it. Color me noob, but his Scumbag's an actual guy. Okay, so the way the Scumbag name came about, it's a speaker brand, for those that don't know. Jim Siebel, a guy named Jim Siebel. He got in an argument with a neighbor. I believe it was a female neighbor. And maybe he was cranking guitars or something too loud, and she called the cops on him, and the cops came, and it turned into a bit of an altercation, and they ended up taking him down to the station, as the story goes. And as they're taking him away, she's like, "That's right, don't bring that scum back." Something like that. That's a true story. That's how Scumbag, and he remembered it and was like, "That's a great name, Scumbag, greenback, blackback, creamback, Scumbag." It's a funny story. D28, very groovy. Pete says, "Drop foot. Have you heard of any treatments to help with tinnitus?" Not really. I mean, I see these things online sometimes. I know they do things with like meditation and like therapy, like sound therapy, where they play sound into your eardrums, and it at a similar frequency, and it cancels it out or something like that. I'm not sure. One thing that worked for me, man, this sounds crazy, but literally, okay, this sounds nuts, I know, but it sort of works. If you take you've got this part of your ear that's right in front of your, like right here, this sort of that flap that's in front of your ear, right? If you hold that with your finger, right? And then you tap with your other one. So you're closing off your ear, right? And then you're tapping on that part of your ear with the finger, and you tap like 30 times, and then you release it, it kind of goes away, the tinnitus. I didn't believe it. I saw something online about it, and I was like, that's stupid. And then I tried it, and I went, oh my God, it sort of works. It's like temporarily, I don't know what it's doing, but it's like, so you close your ear off, and then you can kind of hear it like you're underwater, and there's like a thumping sound almost as you're doing that, right? And it's, everybody out there with tinnitus, try this right now and tell me if you hear any difference. It sort of chills it or something. It's temporary, but it kind of works. It's crazy. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't even remember where I saw it. I saw it on the internet. Obviously, that's where we find out everything these days. Craig is up there in the super chat, and he says, "Ever use an isolation box like a Grossman SG Fat Box?" Never heard of that one. Everyone I've tried doesn't sound good, but I'm gonna look here. Grossman SG Fat Box. I've tried a few. I don't want to name names because people might have them and they might like them. What do I know? But it's made of 25 millimeter, and wow, looks interesting. I'm just looking at it, and I haven't tried it, so maybe it's amazing. But every single time I've put a speaker in a box that looks like that, it just sounds, if this is the normal sound of the speaker that you're used to, and you close up the lid and you put a mic on it, you pull up the fader, and all of a sudden it sounds like this. This is the sound that it makes all of a sudden. It's like, oh, that doesn't sort it. This is the normal sound, and this is the sound in the box. I don't know how else to describe it. They sound kind of nasal, and it makes sense because you're enclosing the speaker in a, and even the ones that are not supposed to do that are supposed to, provide some sort of means around that boxy effect. I heard the same thing. It just doesn't sound right. I just think you're fighting physics, and it's like, I don't know if when you've got a speaker inside an enclosed box like that, if we can expect it to not have a weird mid buildup or frequency buildup. The smaller you put cabinet in a room. So when I did there's a video you can still find where I built an ISO box in my 3 studios ago or whatever. I had a closet that I built one into, and that video is still on YouTube. And I built this box out of MDF and lined it all and stuff, and closed it up and put the cab in there, and it just did that thing. Sounded like that all of a sudden. I was like, oh God, I don't like it. I played around with the foam on the inside and moved the cab, moved the mics and stuff, and it was just like, no, it still sounds boxy. So then I was like, this sucks. And I was bummed out because I'd spent money on it and time, and I busted it out of the closet. I pulled up, I built the box into the closet because it literally wouldn't fit otherwise. I built it as big as I could around and then there was a kind of a lip in the wall or whatever. So it was inside there. And so I literally had to break it apart to get it out, which I did, destroyed it, and just went, this experiment didn't work. But I took the stuff on the inside, the 702 kind of stuff, that whatever it looks like insulation or whatever. And I simply covered that in this burlap looking fabric or whatever. So now I had these kind of like relatively crappy looking absorption panels, I just did the best I could with the materials that I busted back out of the box. And I surrounded the cabinet with that stuff, with the soft stuff. But now I didn't have it enclosed in a box. It was just surrounded by I made like a little fort where I surrounded the top and everything with the soft stuff to soak up the sound. That sounded good. And that's how I did a lot of the guitars on Guitar Nerd. And a bunch of the demos that I, did back in that old place in Santa Monica I had that looked like a little house or whatever that you can see in those, any video I did up till about 2012 or something. Between the first place, where it was like the how to play Eruption lesson, that place, and then the next place that looked a little bigger, my hair got a little longer, 2010 through 2012 or so was done in that place with that setup. And generally speaking, I think it actually sounded pretty damn good. It was a 112 in a closet. I could fit a 212 in there, and sometimes I would put a 212, but the main cab I used was a Scumback loaded. We're talking a lot about Scumback today. It was a Scumback loaded Wagner ported 112 little cabinet. It worked really well in that closet. And it's funny when I'd close the door of it was just a coat closet, and I'd surround it with the soft stuff. I put it up on, I think I had one of those Gamma pads, the foam thing to get it up off the floor, because I had a neighbor with an adjoining wall, one room away from where this closet was. So there were some walls in between. I put the cabinet on the Gamma pad thing and made a little fort all the way around it and closed it all in with the soft foam stuff, mic'd it up and all that, closed the door. And I'd go and play and listen. I would sometimes use an attenuator or something, a Faustine I was using a lot then and stuff to bring it down a little bit. But I could kind of crank like 50 watt amps and get them going, maybe attenuate it down a click through that cabinet. And I was far enough away from it that it worked great for my studio monitors. I could hear what was going on. Sounded good, but I was worried maybe the neighbor was going to get bothered. And so I literally I remember playing my Wolfgang guitar on a wireless, and I put it on. I went and knocked on my neighbor's door. This girl that used to live next door to me and that lived in this like 3-plex thing. I was like, I had my guitar, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Can you hear this like at all when I'm playing right now? I'm just making sure I'm not bothering you." And I'm playing, and it was just hilarious. It was like she thought I was nuts, but couldn't. It was like the faintest, like low 50 hertz, like coming through. She's like, "That's not going to bother me at all." And I was like, "Great." And that's where I worked for the next 2 years with that setup, and it worked really good. So long story short, I liked the setup of a cab in a closet surrounded by soft stuff a lot more than an ISO cab. So if you've got a closet, make good use of it and throw a 112 in there. Beyond that, now we've gotten into load boxes and IRs and all that, which, I'm putting out a video tomorrow, by the way. This brings me around to, I've got a video coming out for my buddy Justin York IRs, great sounding IRs. So I did a video for him for one of his IR packages, the F-Man cab, which is of course a Friedman cab, but it's 412 loaded with greenbacks and V30s, and the guitar tones are I don't know what to say. They're slamming on this thing, like really, really great. So I think, and it's just literally the reactive load over there I used a bunch of amps on it. I used my PT100, which I haven't used for a while because I've been using the 15 a lot, but the 100 sounded great on this. And I used my Soldano down there. I used the red amp a little bit there, the Germino Jose Mod. And those are the 3 heads I used. Yeah, all through this 412 with V30s, 25s, IRs. Listen to it when it comes out and tell me what you think. I think it sounds great. I like the tones. I thought they were real good. Clayton says, I can't stand the loud volume anymore. Old and I have tinnitus. How do you say it? I've never known. I know what you mean. My ears are good now. Like I don't have a lot of ringing, but they do get sensitive real quick. Like they get tweaked, loud. Like for example, I was listening to a high watt last week, cranked, full on high watt, 100 watt. It's so loud. It's crazy. It's so stupid loud. And it's not just the power. It makes a 100 watt Marshall look tame, which is crazy to say, but there's something about the frequencies of a high watt where there's a similarity in some ways with Vox, not the tone because it doesn't have the same compression but the mids. There's this mid-range thing that's like between a high watt and a Vox. Those are the MIDI. I mean, Marshall can be pretty MIDI too, but it's really MIDI. I mean, it's like there's just it's right. If anybody out there has played a DR, high watt cranked, it's crazy. But anyways, Stephen Douglas says, great to see you on the Tone Talk live stream Friday. Funny how Luke just decided to leave. I think his girlfriend was like, dinner's ready. And he was out. He's great. Luke is he's so funny, man. He's a riot. Just so many stories and unbelievable. So he mentioned at the beginning we hung out in Japan. I went to see him at the with his band at the Billboard Live Club in Tokyo. It was a great show, man. He sounded so good. My buddy Jurgen playing bass. John says, quick question. Just got an Echoplex Delay. My chain is flange, phase, chorus, OD, wah into a dirty amp. Where should I place the Echoplex? Well, it's up to you. Flange, phase, chorus, OD, wah. I would probably go wah. Oh, no. Wah, phaser, overdrive. Flanger after the overdrive or before, depends. So try it and see. Depends on the flanger and whether or not you're going for Van Halen. If it's an EVH flanger, run it in front of the overdrive. But try it before and after the drive. So flanger, phase. So what did I say? Wah, overdrive, wah, phase. God, I can't think. Wah, phaser, overdrive, flanger. Probably like that, And then chorus and Echoplex. Do that. That's my guess. Somebody's up there in the super duper duper top chat situation. Vibhas. What's up? Thoughts on replacement necks companies such as Warmoth. I have an old Fender American Deluxe whose neck is toast. Thinking of putting a new roasted maple neck and Sir pickups. Could this save the guitar or am I wasting money? It could. A nice thing about Warmoth is you can get the legit Fender headstock, and then you could always put a Fender logo on it. And then you don't, something about it, right? You don't want to lose the logo. And, if you've got a Fender, you want it to be a Fender. So I think that's a good, I think a new roasted maple neck and Sir pickups could save the guitar. Sure. If the neck is a problem and you want to keep you basically like the guitar, it's not that expensive, right? I mean, roasted might cost you more or whatever, but yeah, get a nice Warmoth neck and tell them exactly what you want, confer with them. And if it's an American Deluxe, the neck is going to be kind of like a, slim C or standard C shape. So unless you want to do something different, don't get a neck that's too different than that. I would say tell them, give me something similar to a Fender American Standard or something. And try a compound radius, which your guitar probably didn't have. If you want it to feel a little more vintage, go like the 9 to 14 if they make that, or 9 to 12 radius if they make that, or if you want it to be a little flatter, the 10 to 14 is more like a Sur, the little more modern feel. Well, the Sur does the other one, but they tend to do the 10 to 14 more. Yeah. I would go for it. I think you can probably fix the guitar. Unless you're like, I never really liked this guitar. Then you could, part it out and sell it for money, or maybe get a, just really basic replacement neck and then sell it. But it's not gonna have the Fender neck on it. So when you say the neck is toast, I wonder if it can be repaired, if it needs to be, it's possible like a refret and planing or something could fix the neck. So it just depends. But I think Warmoth is good, and I've played some of their, their necks and stuff. They're pretty good. I like the neck on my Black Strat, the one everybody seems to go nuts over. It's like the Van Halen one, and it's a Musicraft neck, I think, and KNE body. So Musicraft is pretty nice. Couple folks are asking about Brit. Actually, it's funny. There was two things here. One in my what somebody was asking about in the video where my desk was being made in my studio. Somebody said, "Is that your girlfriend?" And somebody else says, "Brit, okay." I know on her Instagram yesterday she put up a photo because she got in a fender bender yesterday. Yeah, she's okay. She's gonna be sore for a few days, but she's okay. Modern cars are incredible. Let's say that, airbags and the whole 9 yards. But yeah, she's sore. She got a sore neck today and stuff, and her knee got banged up a bit and stuff, but should be all right. Thanks for asking. Let's see here. Yeah. Somebody says, why get roasted if your current one is toast and you're not happy with it? I think that's a toast joke. I get it. Here's Rick. He says he's got 2 builds he's done with Warmoth necks, and they're among his favorites. They do not do the best with slotting nuts. The problem with nuts is you kind of have to be putting the guitar together. So you might want to tell them to just leave the nut and then leave it to a local luthier to, like a prefab nut on a guitar. You can't really do the nut until you put strings on it. I feel like it's impossible to slot it and get it's part of the setup. So that's the thing, you're never going to get a neck, put it on the guitar, set it, unless you're extraordinarily lucky and the nut is like perfect just from the, like a prefab thing. It's part of the setup that has to be done as you're putting the guitar together, and you get it together and you're like, oh, okay, I need to cut the nut a little lower for, it's like there's so many variables, right? With like, the neck on the body, the height of the bridge, and then the string angle and stuff. And then you realize when I guess you could probably guesstimate it at Warmoth. I don't know how they do it, but it's like, it really is something that is part of, it's not part of guitar construction. It's part of setup at the end, final setup, really, to me. What's the biggest difference now between playing guitar now and 30 years ago, says Arvin? I think probably the internet. Because it's the driver of how people learn, and we didn't used to have that. So that's the biggest difference. It's why you've seen a technical explosion with kids and stuff, and people able to learn things that maybe they wouldn't have been able to learn before, because all you need is a computer now, and you've got access to some of the greatest instruction ever, right? Like when you think about it, like it's one thing if you're in the States and all that, you got access to it, but we had access to a lot of ways to learn. If you're in like India or something, and it's like it's more limited as far as like, even if you can just get on a computer, you can be anywhere in the world and get a John Petrucci lesson now, or that it didn't used to be that way. Like it used to be you needed a VHS and a TV and a videotape, and ability to get that videotape. And if you were like living somewhere, it's different, right? Different. And now you see these people like all over the place. If it's just opened up the access to the information to allow people to learn in ways, which is mostly positive, I guess, for all the things that, I finally understood modes because of the internet, says Deja Blue. Yeah. Good lesson. We had to slow down records to learn songs. Yeah. Now imagine you were like, I mean, computers are just a lot more widespread than like the way I would slow things down is like a 4-track. I had a Tascam that I could, record at 3 3/4 IPS or whatever, slow down to 1 7/8, and then the things would go down to down an octave and in half speed. Arvin says I meant physically playing the guitar. Biggest difference, than 30 years ago. I'm older, so I'm slower than I was 30 years ago. All things equal, I don't know. I mean, nothing different really, right? But I'm slower. Takes me longer to warm up. But yeah, Dejo Blue says he's from a small town, had no one to teach him in the 90s, right? So now you'd have access, But even you know what I'm saying, right? Like it'd be really difficult, no matter from where you're from, if you lived in, somewhere remote or somewhere where you had limited financial means, where you didn't have any access to, and now it's like wide open. So you see people from all over the place getting influenced by, it's incredible. You see, even I've come to realize through travel that even accents are getting diluted a lot. Some of you out there probably have recognized that, but like, the British accent, or you meet folks from, Holland and different places where they don't have the same strong accents when speaking English because of the internet. So it's like, everybody watching movies and stuff and, and hearing, so it's affected the way people learn and the way people communicate, not just right down to that level where it's like people learn how to speak English off of, and other languages, whatever language that you're trying to learn. You can just simply watch movies and stuff in other languages and you're hearing native speakers speak, and it affects learning in different ways that I think it's going to, 50 years from now, it's going to be really interesting. Well, I won't be around 50 years from now unless there's some great medical advancements. I'm that old. I might be. God, I guess I could be. I shouldn't sell myself short like that. It's possible. I don't know if I want to be. You know what I mean? Vibhas says, one reason for getting roasted maple is that Sir mentioned on Tone Talk that roasting makes the tonal frequencies in the maple center around a narrower band, hence work well with different woods. That's interesting. He's more technical about it than me. The main thing I noticed with roasting, in my experience, and travel and things, flying around the world with guitars and different climates and stuff, is that they stay very stable in comparison to non-roasted necks. Things like truss rod adjustments when moving from a cold to a hot climate or somewhere where it's more or less humid, always affects necks. But roasted, it's like you do half the truss rod adjustments. So Joris Dirks is asking, have I ever owned a Strat Plus? I think I had this guitar that was a Strat Plus in the late 80s and early 90s. It was a seafoam green, and I scalloped it because I was into Yngwie and all that. And so I scalloped it. That was pretty wild. It had big, I went a little too far. Not too far. I didn't like hit the truss rod or lose the dots. I almost lost one of the dots, I think, as I remember. But it was, I used a rasp and scalloped it. It turned out okay. I sold it. Somebody wanted it eventually. It wasn't destroyed. So, but that was my Strat Plus. Yeah, it had lace sensors and that kind of stuff on it. Do you recommend your 12 strings? I have a Taylor 12 string. That's the best 12. I'll never need another 12 string, I don't think. As far as an acoustic, it's so good, man. It's such a great guitar. So talk about stable. I can tune it down to D, like all the way down a whole step, and it'll respond great. I can tune it up to E. The neck barely moves. It's really great, and it plays so good. The Taylor 12 strings, they got nice wide necks with low action. What a great acoustic 12. It sounds wonderful. And then I've got a couple of Dan Electros, different models, a solid body, a hollow body, and they're very nice too. They work good. For the amount I play a 12 string, I'm fine with the ones I've got. That said, my favorite 12 string I've ever played is an old Fender that was Linda Perry's. It was like one of those 66 Fenders with a slightly offset body, kind of almost like a Jazzmaster style body, and the split pickups. I love those guitars. They sound really great. I'd like an old one. You can get vintage ones they're not that expensive really, because it's like Fender 12 strings. You can get a vintage, for, I think you see them for like $3,500 or, for as far as like vintage Fender money, they're not really that much. So be nice to have one of those. But I think about spending that much money on a guitar that I would play once in a blue moon for a 12-string part. And I'm like, maybe not. But anyway, you guys ever see those Fenders that they made out of old 12-string parts that are 6 strings? Because they end up looking kind of like Gumby headstock, and they've got the 6, so they made, I can't remember what they called them, but they're so cool. They're kind of cool, like basically like the Fender 12 with the split pickups and everything, but it's a 6-string. They're pretty neat. They got big blocks for the inlays, and they were just using up old parts, I think. Somebody's asking if I know Brad Fernquist, who's the guitar player that is the touring guitars for many, many years in Goo Goo Dolls. I do know Brad because he's from Calgary. Nathan's asking if I know Greg Saran. You're mentioning all these folks. I've done 2 tours with Greg Saran. When I toured with Jewel in 2006, he was the musical director, and I've known him for many years, man. And then also we did a Mylène Farmer, who was one of the French artists that I did a tour with in when was that? 2013. That's the last time I toured. That's the last time I saw Greg. 2013. But yeah, he's a really, really good guitar player. What about the classic rock show? So cool. Journey's cover. Oh, it's fun, man. That's just a good time. That's just folks getting together and celebrating fun rock and roll. What's my favorite guitar, and when is Richie Kotzen coming on the show? I don't know. I still never asked him. I have Peter Frampton coming up on the 25th, you guys. I think it's the 25th. Don't exactly quote me on that, but I'm 99% sure that was the Sunday. So that'll be pretty soon. That's 3 weeks from now. That seems like is that right? I need to look at the calendar. Let's open up a calendar and just make sure here that that's the date. Yeah, that's right, 25th. So 3 weeks from now, we'll have Mr. Frampton on. That'll be really good. First song I ever learned was "I Can't Explain" by The Who. And it was a revelation that I could play those chords and have it, do its thing. Have it rock. I can do that. It sounds like the song. That's awesome. I found my thing. Deja Blues asking if I've ever tried an Evertune bridge. Have you guys ever tried an Evertune? Lauren, he's in here. He's in your chat. He lent me a guitar with an Evertune, so I tried his. And as well, Steve Stevens. If you want an interesting sort of breakdown of the Evertune and thoughts on it and stuff, watch my rig rundown thing. Although I can't say that because that's patented or whatever, trademarked, whatever it's called by Premier Guitar. Rig walkthrough. I could actually call it Badass Guitar Rigs with Steve Stevens. Yeah, the one I did with Steve Stevens. He tells us all about the Evertune and his experiences with it and stuff, and breaks it down. Pretty cool. You can find out all about that. It's pretty cool. Is my short thoughts on it. I think it's definitely going to change the sound of a guitar having that thing on it. But I'd like to have one guitar around with it. Just to have. You can set it up in different ways. So Steve would use it in a drop C tuning on one guitar, for instance, or drop C sharp, so really low. And he set it up so that when you hit the low strings, they don't move much. So that, you can nail them and they stay in tune, like so sort of steely in tune. I remember seeing him play with Deadland Ritual, his band with Geezer Butler, with that guitar. And it's kind of amazing. It was like, wow, that's a wild sound. Like to hear a band tuned so low, and usually it does the more like Kaya's thing or something where you tune really low and then it bends, and that's a cool sound. I think the out of tune thing is neat too. This was like the opposite. It's like very in tune, like when you hit the strings and it's that low and just super, steely in tune. And so that's how he sets it up. And you can set it up so that, it doesn't even respond to bends really, which you don't want to do, So there's different ways to do it, and you can do it per string. It's interesting. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like the tension of because it's a system of balance is what it is, of springs or whatever it's using. And then when you bend a string, you can make it so that it compensates and actually loosens, and then it won't, you know what I mean? So that it doesn't bend. The note stays like on a fixed pitch. It's crazy. So obviously you probably don't want to do that on the top strings. It would be so useless and weird if you couldn't bend and get the pitch to change, but you can make it do that if you want to. And then anywhere in between, you can make it compensate on certain strings and not on others. It's interesting. Pablo's up in the top chat, and he says he's about to hand wire a 100-watt plexi head from Mojotone and can't decide if going for super lead or super bass circuit. Do I have thoughts? It depends on what you want to do. They're not that different. You can always switch it. It's not going to be a major problem if you decide you want to try both and switch. But it depends what you're going for. I think that Frampton's favorite Marshall, he's got a Jose that's a super bass, I think. It's going to be fatter single notes maybe, and a little bit, not quite as, the lead circuit's just a little bit brighter and thinner and more cutting. If you're into Dwayne Allman and ZZ Top and stuff, you might want to go for the bass circuit, if you want more low gain, fat single notes, I would say. Bass circuit. If you want more Van Halen or Angus Young, you're going to want to probably go, more for the lead circuit, I think. So, what are you into? Warmer, fatter, more broad tones, or more cutting and more distorted and tight? You pick. Hopefully that's helpful. What's your favorite amp right now? Oh God, I got too many to mention. I mean, I love my, if I gotta have one, it's my signature amp, because my amp has the greatest clean channel on earth. I mean, both the PT100 and the PT15 it's just such a great clean channel. And then the drive is absolutely terrific. So it's like, as a working tool, it's really, really, really hard to beat. And if I can only have one, I mean, the 15's awesome, We're working on other stuff too, so there's stuff coming, obviously, right? But the 100 doesn't have the IRs built in. That's the only thing, The 100 has got enough power for anything, though. So, okay. So having said that, as far as other amps go, what do I like and have fun with and stuff? Besides the PT15 and the PT100, I'm really enjoying a Red Germino because it's, Dave did the Jose mods on it. It still does the classic plexi thing so well. It's pretty wild. I can get it to basically do the, 100-watt on 10, just organic, not too much gain, but just right gain, rock and roll. It does it in spades. And then I can switch in the gain boost and the master and dial it back and stuff and do all that stuff. And then it's got this cutting, throaty thing that's like, it's really aggressive and cool. It's not perfect for everything. The Jose thing is like, although I can get the fat thing out of that amp easily, like I said, I can do the vintage thing with it. So it's kind of got it all in many ways as far as Marshall, so that's probably, I'm having the most fun with that. The Ombre was great in a very different way. I mean, recently I've really had fun. I have fun playing through it because it's so, just plug a cable in, bare bones, have a great time playing through that little amp. 20 watts, lots of mids, feeds back like crazy. It's a wonderful thing. So that's been kind of the most fun I've had through amps lately, I guess, is those ones. Yeah. Okay. What is the best amp? Marshall or Hi-Watt? Please, let's debate it in here. Well, it depends what you want to do, but for me, it's Marshall. I like Hi-Watts, but man, like I say, brutally loud, really cool. I'd like to, I was saying to Dave Friedman the other day, I'd love to know how Gilmour set his Hi-Watts, as kind of a pedal platform. Really, he's really the original pedal platform guy, running everything in front of clean amps. But my Marshall, to me, I can do more with. Just for me, I can just do more with it. I can get dirtier with it. Doesn't have to be as loud. Yeah. If I had to pick, for sure. I mean, I don't own a Hi-Watt, so there you go. But it's not like I don't want one. I would like one. It's just a more specific thing. If that's your thing, it's great. If you're Pete Townsend, think of that. Pete didn't want too much sustain. I remember hearing him say that. And I think it's because he liked to play chords, and he probably wanted them to be clear, And if an amp has a lot of gain, and then you're playing a complex chord and letting it ring or whatever, I think he likes acoustic guitar a lot. So I almost think he wanted almost like a loud, brash version of an acoustic guitar was Pete Townsend. Really, that's his thing. Not, he wanted the similar thing to what he does on acoustic, that aggressive, percussive, which they are. They're very percussive. They punch, that initial attack and then the fade off, you know. I think that's what Pete likes. So if that's what you're into, a lot of us almost want the opposite. Like, I love that. And then when I play solos, I like, you know, sustain and all that stuff, feedback and gain. Now, high watt doesn't really excel at that. It's going to be tough unless you use a pedal, you know. It's more of a rhythm guitar amp, I think, unless you're Gilmore, which, there you go, right? He's running big muffs and stuff into it, or, you know, tube drivers and things, you know, different pedals like that. It's not you can think of anybody that plays a high watt and plays solos through them, like just the amp, like Angus Young style. Not really, right? I mean, Pete did, but wasn't really a lead guitar player, to be honest. I mean, right? I mean, he did, but he's not known for that. So, you know, it's a rhythm guitar amp that you can play leads through if you add a pedal. That's what I think. Insane Music is recommending the super bass circuit for the fellow that's building a Marshall amp from Mojo, Marshall style circuit. Super bass if you like fuzz faces. I find a fuzz face, to be honest, I find a fuzz face is pretty dark. So for me, like, it can be pretty woolly. I'm great into a super bass, I'm sure, but also great into you know, I mean, I like it into a bright Marshall, to be honest, because it gives the fuzz a little clarity, especially when you're on the neck pickup and stuff. Like, I don't mind a bright cap and all that on an amp with a fuzz face in front. It works fine for me. The fuzz face is pretty woolly. So, but to each his own. I'm sure, you know, it's, you know, could be great through a super bass too for different types of things. What kind of stuff are you practicing these days? Says Live to play guitar. You know, man, honestly, the last couple of weeks, because I was mentioning the other day that I've been recording stuff using the screen capture on my iPhone, and then I'll put it into my computer and save it to practice. So I was doing that for a little bit. Haven't been practicing a lot for the last couple of weeks. I've been doing videos and writing songs. You know, so I've gotten the 2 done that you saw this week. I got another one done this week too that I'm just not going to put out until tomorrow, because I find it's weird to put out more than 2 videos a week or something. I mean, it's best to just only put out like 2 a week and then maybe do this, I think. But Chris says, but anyway, my point was that I've just been writing stuff. Noel Gallagher uses high watt and plays solos with his Bigsby, says Nathan Liberty. Chris says Martin Barr, Jeff Hotel used high watts with a treble booster, but that's a pedal. That's different, right? I'm saying a Marshall style. Like, when we think about Marshall players that didn't use a pedal for gain, there's not very many. And I bet Noel uses a pedal, because I've seen Noel's board. I know he's got a fairly, you know, he's got timeline on there and bunch of different stuff, but and drives and stuff. I don't think there's a lot of Jethro Tull, damn it. I don't know if okay, if you put I guess treble booster, sure, but I mean, like, I'm talking about, you know, with a Marshall, Eddie Van Halen or Angus Young style, those guys didn't need a pedal in front of those amps, and they're both like lead guitar players, right? Treble booster, now we're talking about, great, you know. I mean, like I say, there's a similar thing with the mids on those amps, and maybe on the normal channel with a treble booster, unbelievable guitar sounds, you know. But anyway, I missed one super duper chat, says Villa. Which one did I miss? Very Dead Horse. Let's take a look and find you, good sir. Sorry I missed your chat. I'm gonna look back here. There you are. Sorry about that. Have I tried an Arcane Phil X humbucker? Oh wow, you were at that Cornell show in Nashville. God, that's a good memory. I got stories about that show. Arcane Phil X, I haven't. The only Arcane pickups I have, which are very nice, are in my Scala guitar, and I believe they're an Alnico 2 PAF style, and it's a great sounding guitar. I haven't played it for a while, which is dumb. I gotta get it. It's in my vault, my guitar vault. Needs a nut cut. Nut's a little low on it. It buzzes a bit, but it sounds cool nonetheless. The Cornell show in Nashville, was it 2007? I guess it was, right? That's the first time I ever met Peter. We can talk about that on the show, actually, when he's on in a couple weeks. My memory of it is that on the encore, you'll remember this as well, we did Slaves and Bulldozers. and Whole Lot of Love. Peter came out and played those with us. Of course, we also played Black Hole Sun because Peter actually won a Grammy for his version of Black Hole Sun. So that's how he met Chris originally. I think it was through all that and stuff, but because they were pals. But anyways, when we did the Space Jam, you know, and the Slaves and Bulldozers and Whole Lot of Love thing, we were just jamming, and Peter went out and played a really nice solo and stuff, and we kind of left a bunch of space, you know, for him to play. And he did his thing, and he was playing, and then he kind of backed off and stuff. But he had his whole rig there, and he had the talk box set up. And I always remember Yogi, my co-guitarist in that band, who Yogi's like not afraid to say anything to anybody. He was sitting on the ground as Peter's playing sort of beside him. He's sitting down on his pedal board and making kind of spacey sounds with his analog delay and just kind of texture, you know. And he looks at Peter, and because Peter kind of winds it up, and he goes, he sensed he was finishing, you know, and he goes, hey, talk box, do the talk box. and Peter goes, okay. And then he goes up to the mic and does the whole, like, do you feel the way, you know, and the crowd went insane, you know. And I just laughed. I was like, God, Yogi, you're so funny. Like, I would have never said that to him because I'm just not that, you know, but I'm so glad that he did. And I love that Yogi's Yogi and said that, you know, egged him on. It was really cool. It's great you were at that show. It's good memory, really good memory of mine. That's also the day I bought my old Strat. I think that you've seen me play so much. My 64 Strat. I bought it that day, I think, of the Fram show. If it wasn't that day, I bought it the next morning. Went and got it and had it ever since. Matt Presley is up in the top chat. He says, thoughts on the Marshall SV20H Studio Vintage? Can you get decent plexi sounds with that amp? I've seen pretty good tones online, and most people that try them are pretty happy with them, I think. You know, I've seen the innards, and they're like not amazing on the inside or anything, but you know, whatever. I mean, they sound close. I think it's probably a pretty cool amp, is my feel. I've often thought about getting one, but going on Sweetwater and just pulling, and then I'm like, I don't need one of those. I got enough Marshall style amps, you know, but they're kind of cool. They're little and all that. Bobby was there in this top chat as well, the super chat. Sorry, I almost missed it, but I didn't, because I'm about to say it. Have you tried the Supro Sun Dragon? No, I have not. And I seen that the Park version, you know, that he did with Jimmy Page at the at LA Vintage Guitar. I don't know if they still have it or not, but they got one of those in. I'd be interested to try it. I like those super amps and stuff, and I like those tones. You know, to be honest, I love Jimmy Page. I love Jimmy Page, and I love Zeppelin. I'm not like, oh my God, I have to get that sound. Like, that's not I've never been like, certain tones I'm like interested in, like, how do you do that or whatever. But I feel like it's a sound I can get out of stuff I've already got. For instance, okay, I'll give you a good example. Jimmy Page, I don't think ever played a Brown Deluxe, but play Zeppelin through that thing. It sounds great. Like, it's perfect for playing Zeppelin. And at that point, I think it's more about in the hands and playing the licks in the spirit. I don't feel like I've got this burning need to recreate the Jimmy Page rig. Never felt like that, you know. Cool to have you know, some of the pedals that he used and stuff, and just, you know, like, obviously, you know, although okay. I guess when I got my Yaron, I said I want to be able to do Jimmy Page style, you know, because he was asking me. He's like, "Do you want this to be more rock like tone, like mids, or do you want more of that airy Jimmy Page steroids telly thing?" And I said, "Yes, that. I want that where I can get the in between Les Paul sounds and all that on the middle pickup, and still get great rock tones when I turn it up, but more like I want that, what I think of as PAF, which is more air in the tone and a bit more like a big single coil, but not this, you know, powered out MIDI thing. I got plenty of guitars to do that. I want a guitar that has more of that vintage thing. And so that's what we went for in that. But beyond that, I just, you know, I love Jimmy Page and stuff, but he's not one of my, like, I need to get that tone from that record and I need all the gear. Some people do that stuff, and I'm with him, which I totally get. Just never been that guy. Victor AVD says, opinion about Sir SL67 and Bogner amps. Well, it's funny you mentioned the SL67. The Bogner, the one I was going to say is the closest one to what I would want to use is probably the Helios, which is pretty cool. Some of the other Bogner amps, like the Shiva and the Ecstasies and stuff, I did a lot of fans, you know. For me, they're a little dark, and they've got this dampening thing where they sound really good when you're playing them in the room. The problem I have with them is, okay, first of all, there's a low mids thing. There's a lot of low mids in the tone. And I know Reinhold and I really like him. So it's like, he's a funny guy and we talk, and I think he's got a great, it's just the Helios, which is probably made it more for guys like me that felt like the other amps were a little like dark and low midi or something. But there's also just this dampening thing where it's like, I feel like the sound is kind of like, I don't want to say stuck in the cabinet, but it's like a Marshall, just the throw and the power and the wildness of it and all that. I feel like the Wagners, they have more of this thing where it's like, somebody described it to me once as almost like the sound's already been recorded and is coming out of studio monitors when it's coming out of the cabinet. Does that make sense? And I experienced this for the first time a long, long time ago when I made a record, and I had one in the studio and stuff. And then I also had an old 67 Marshall Plexi. I was like, oh my God, like they're really different. The Wagner is like way more controllable and, a lot of variety in the tones and all that stuff. But the 67 Marshall was just like this wild beast of a, bucking bronco of an amplifier that you had to control, and like it was out of control. But that's when I first realized, like, oh my God, that's how Hendrix did what he did. And it was wild and out of control at times, and loud and crazy, and had a fuzz face to that. I was like, whoa, and a whoa, and then it all gets distilled down to studio monitors eventually, and sounds like coming out of it. But those inspired solos and all that tone with that craziness and stuff like that, I realized, you kind of need the amp to go crazy like that in order to capture that onto tape. Like there's no substitute. You might be able to do it with a small amp cranked up to the hilt and all that. There's plenty of examples of that. But that was the only problem I had with when an amp sounds too perfect and distilled coming out of the cabinet. Sometimes people accuse me of sounding bright, my tones. But when you play old record, Satisfaction or whatever, the guitar tone on there, or a lot of when you hear a lot of the tones that I love, the fuzzes and the treble booster tones and stuff like that, like a lot of stuff was aggressive, and like that's just how I grew up with those. When we were talking about high watts at the beginning, that was definitely that, really aggressive. And once it's in the mix, it sits and cuts and it's got its place and all that. So I'm just sort of always more into that, like a little bit of the brutal, vicious amps. This is a little more my thing, be it an AC30 or a Marshall 50 watt or 100 watt from the late 60s or even the 70s. That kind of, there's no substitute. I don't know. I just love that, so. Alex Highwood period was great, says Blaze. I would totally agree with that. Alex got great tones out of them. But also he's a great rhythm guitar player, and the clarity in he was obviously a huge Pete Townsend fan. Probably one of his biggest influences, was Who, and you hear it in his chords and stuff. And so that makes sense. And for that rhythm guitar and the stuff that Alex was doing with complex chords and stuff with ringing overtones and drone notes and things, Highwatt's great for that, and when you look at the Marshalls that he picked and how he did it, when Alex did his Marshalls, we're talking about Alex Lifeson, right? He ran one clean and one dirty. So that makes a lot of sense too, because you can get there if you run one amp clean and one amp dirty and play complex chords. Now you can blend them. That's the way that I heard that he used to do it in the studio and stuff, is that he, because I didn't really understand that for a long time. And then I did some research and I realized that what I think is going on is Alex would cut a sound, cut a guitar part, and they'd be recording, as I understand it, the clean. There was this Marshall Club and Country combos or whatever they were called, and he'd set one clean and one dirty and play the part both at the same time with his effects and everything. And then, they could blend the clean and dirty amps per track on the particular track to get a nice, a clarity and some distortion in the sound. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense when you listen to the records and listen to the sounds that he's getting and stuff, how he gets that clean clarity, but yet distorted. So very, very unique. I wish there was more made about that, because he, some of those tones, man, on those Rush records are really great. And people don't look into his thing enough, or maybe ask him, because I find it kind of fascinating, he was ahead of his time, really unique with his rig. And yeah, for sure. Only for a brief period, says Blaze, Marshall was his core sound. Same thing with Jimmy Page. I mean, he used Hiwatts for a while and then went back to Marshall. No diss on Hiwatts. It's not like I'm dissing them. I'm not. It's just, I think the Marshall thing is infectious because they just feel good to play when you've got that, you got a little more gain to play with and stuff. It's a little easier. Hiwatts are mean, it's like, it's not the most fun maybe over time. It's like, God, this sounds great and it's brutal, but I don't know how long I can do this. that's kind of what my feeling is when I play it. It's just like, God, I'm definitely going to hurt my hearing in a relatively short period of time. And that's even compared to like a 100-watt Marshall or something, yeah. So, yeah, Lauren says, don't forget Eric at Lush. That's true. I'll give Eric, we were talking about cutting nuts earlier and how nuts are an important thing, part of guitar setup overall. Eric at Lush Guitars in the Valley does great guitar work, and he'll do a good nut for sure. Prince Westerberg says, Hiwatt is huge Class A B amp with, unlike Marshall's, massive dynamics. So the moment you stop playing, it's like dropping off a cliff into silence. Less compressed. Yep. Less what you want. Well, maybe you do want it. I think it's, like I say, it's what Pete wanted. It's what Pete Townsend wanted, and maybe Alex at times, with the less sustain and less of that stuff. Because for chords, that clarity and less compression. Here's the thing is that with single notes and solos are sometimes it's, the antithesis of what you want for tonally for chords and complex things when it's ringing. I learned this when I played Mesa Boogies for a while. It was my first sort of like realization that like the difference between a Marshall, because a Marshall is a thinner sound than a Mesa, and a Mesa, like, talk about that style of distortion for complex chords. Too much, as far as, I'm talking about the Mark sound. It'd be like trying to play a Dumble, that fat, liquidy single note thing does not work when you're trying to play like arpeggiated chords that are dirty or complex. It just turns into like this, you know what I mean? It's almost like the extreme version would be a fuzz or a clear overdrive or more like a distortion, a clear hard clipped pedal that's not too dirty compared to a fuzz. That's how I would compare it. Because if you've got do you know what I'm getting? Or I'm getting too far out in the weeds here. Like, yeah, like just try a certain like Alex Lifeson using a Mark II C+ or something for that would not have worked for like the stuff that he was playing. The chords and stuff. Pete Townsend, I mean, he used to use this Mesa cabinets. Maybe like a Mark I would have worked for Pete Townsend, but like as far as I guess he played Mesa a little bit, but it was never later on the gainy ones, just that, you guys know what I'm talking about, I think. Clarity and all that. Can you talk about the Hedgehog? Does it work as an all-rounder? Hedgehog is a great amp because it's got that terrific, I mean, the core sound in a Hedgehog is kind of an American clean. It's not quite as sparkly sounding, I don't think, as the PT100 can be, like the straight up blackface style clean sound. It's more that it's got more mids and it's more like a slightly thicker Dumble thing, but it's a great clean channel. And then the gain in it is terrific if you're doing anything that's roots Americana, blues, R&B, any kind of like, it was a great amp probably if you're going for, might do the John Mayer thing kind of, and then adding pedals to it and stuff. You can definitely, it's a good amp for pedals. You've got all those options as far as bright and the mid boost and stuff like that. So it's a great, I remember when I did the video for it, if you haven't seen my Hedgehog video, I tried to hit all the bases in there. So I think that video is actually pretty honest and accurate. And I found like, this is great. Like between these 4 presets, I can get all the way from a crystal clean, sparkly thing through to a really liquidy lead thing. And it's pretty damn nice. And like, it's like, wow, there's some 4 great guitar sounds in there, I think I did like crystal clean, to slightly boosted clean that could get gritty if I hit it hard, to a more grindy rhythm, classic rock rhythm, to then a warm lead all the way through. And it was like, well, that covers a hell of a lot of territory. And I didn't find it that hard to. I think people got confused by the Hedgehog. It's definitely Dumble inspired. John didn't want to he's very cognizant of he does his own thing. He'll never, rip off the design or something. He's like, I have to put my own thing into it because I don't want anybody to think that I'm stealing from, so although he might be influenced by design, he'll always make tweaks and do his own circuit and stuff like that and do it his own way, but I think people got a little confused because it's like he's really into making things efficient and stuff like that. And people might have seen the push buttons and the switches and the programmability and the fact that it had MIDI and go, oh, is it the digital amp or something? It's like, no. It's an all tube amp, but it's got a lot of options for switching. And you can store 4 basic presets on it, with the combinations of the mid and the bright and everything, which makes it really, really versatile. But maybe that got maybe people are like, I don't know what to think. Like you're asking, does it work as an all-rounder? Maybe folks are like, I don't know exactly what this amp is supposed to sound like or do. That's the only thing I think that maybe happened with that amp. I tried to show it in my video, but hopefully that was helpful and stuff, John said it's cool to listen to you talk. Some people, my sister would probably disagree with you, but thank you. I'm glad you're here. I am. What else we got here? SD Design says happy hour, 4 p.m. Is it 4 already? You're on the East Coast. I did see. I learn new things every day about you folks. 4 p.m. in New Jersey. Listening while driving today, and I'm in a parking lot while typing this. That's Natasha. Not texting and driving. Yeah, don't do that. Don't text and drive. Don't. Let's see. What else do we got here? Somebody was asking about Laney's. Fran says Laney amps are very special. You guys are talking about Laney's. I think Laney's are really cool. I think I told the story on the other day on Tone Talk where I almost bought one. Fran, there you go. Where does Laney fit in this conversation? So a Laney supergroup. I was talking about this on Tone Talk, so sorry if anybody overheard this, but I almost bought one. Amazing sounding amps, the Partridge Transformers, and they just sound like that was Tony Iommi's thing. I mean, Laney, great. And they were kind of ahead of their time with then putting a treble booster in an amp, in the clip amps. So an overdrive circuit in there and all that in the early 70s. I don't have a great knowledge of Laney's or when exactly these things came out, but obviously the late 60s, they had the super groups. And man, they just sound like a great plexi to me, to be honest. Really, really great 4-hole Marshall style. I mean, I think, high watts are different, but that 4-input volume 1, volume 2 treble middle bass presence thing went across a few different amplifier companies that we saw from that, That Fran says I'm being that he loves me. I'm honest. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I try to be. Yeah. Martin says here that Aqualung was straight into the high watt. That's interesting. Shiny Beast. Okay, well, he's a great guitar player, no doubt. Holly Henderson, the girl I made a record for, she's a big Martin fan. She loves Jethro Tull. I don't really know his playing that well, so maybe I need to do more research. Need to listen. Anyways, Laney, and then in the early '80s with Laney, they came out with those AOR, those amps, and which, as I understand it, JCM 800 kind of based amplifiers. Really, Dave Friedman is kind of a fan. He thinks that he lends them a lot of, gives them a lot of props for being kind of ahead of their time and being pretty solid designs. Like as far as you look at the circuit and you're like, oh, okay, forward thinking kind of stuff going on. But I haven't played a hell of a lot of them. That I told the story the other day. I almost bought a late 60s super group. It sounded unbelievable. It was loud and brutal and awesome, and sounded just like rock and roll. And I loved it. And I went down to buy it because I tried it a couple times. Got to the store, and it had been sold like a half an hour before I got there, so I never got it. I had the money and I had the cash in hand, was ready to go, and somebody had bought it. I was so bummed. I wonder where that amp is now. Dejo Blue says, do you prefer Logic over Pro Tools? How's Luna holding up? I'm using Luna more and more. I really like it, actually, as I get more comfortable with it and as I've made some updates. Little things about Luna still, like the MIDI editing is a little tough for me. But they fixed a lot of things. Like it would take forever to render to bounce out a mix, and they fixed that. Now it's like pretty fast. So it gets, it's still new and stuff. I actually really like it. I love the sound, man. The Neve summing, and there's something about it that's just like, this is gooey and warm and sounds great. It feels good working in it, because the tones feel like you track and you do the tracking is almost zero latency, and you track through it and it feels great. It's like, okay, this is cool. And then you get a few guitars down and then you start throwing the analog tape on the tracks. Oh, let's start warming things up, and you put that, because it's got analog tape sim on every channel, and you're like, yeah, that just got better. Oh, let's bus the guitars. Send them out of bus. Okay, send them all out of bus. Turn on the Neve summing. Things just got even a little better. So like the guy from UA, when I was doing my, I did a live stream with them, and we, all about Luna and stuff. And he said, like recording. What was he mentioning? It's like when you record in Logic or whatever, which I've done for years and I still like it, but it's like you do it and you get the sound and there it is. And then you can add some EQ or whatever, but you're kind of carving that sound. And then you do your mix, like, yeah, that's the sound I get generally. With Luna, it's like you record the stuff and then turning on the tape and bussing and using the Neve summing, it's like, okay, things just got better, like in a different way than it does if you're just adding a plugin and EQing or something. I don't know. There's just something about it where it's like the DAW starts to, it's like, okay, let's switch on the good sauce now. And you switch it all on. And then it's like, yeah, everything just improved a little bit in a great warm, like, yeah, now we're getting somewhere. And it sounds like, and it's just different, a little bit better. Like for me, for rock, especially, it's got this great, and I imagine for a lot of styles of music, it's got a great in your face glue to it. It sounds really good. Still use Logic a lot, though. Robert says, hey, Pete, when you're on tour, do you have dedicated techs for everything, or you attempt any of yourself? A little bit of both. I always have a tech on tour, generally. I've never done a tour. Well, I've done a tour with no tech, I guess. But have I? Like maybe really early. I don't think I've ever done a tour where I've never had it. Like there's been at least a stage tech that generally gets the gear in and set up and stuff and tunes guitars. And you kind of have to have that on tour. Like if you got to do your own everything, man, I've never done that. Like, like where the whole band, I don't know. I just never did it. I guess, wait. Maybe 40 Foot Echo. Do we have a tech? We had somebody that would get all our stuff. It was like my band, sign band, or a little more like a baby band on the label. There'd always be somebody, but I would probably do my own guitars, tuning and changing strings and stuff on that tour. Yeah, I did. I think just budget and stuff like that, But every other tour I've ever done, there's generally, I have a guitar tech. But I'd always like to go out and do little setup stuff myself. So like check truss rods, little things. Sometimes I'll go do strings, and if the tech's busy, they get busy. They got other things to do, or they, somebody needs them because there's a problem with something else, and it's like, don't worry about it. I'll do it tonight. I'll get the guitars ready or whatever, and you can, I'm always of the mind that that it's not coming from a prima donna thing or anything like that either. Many times you don't have time, like because it's like you got to go do a radio thing, so you're off doing that before the show, or something else comes, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just part of the thing. I mean, it's part of the perks of like being on tour or whatever. It's just part of the way it's structured is there's techs, and so what was my point? I feel like always like the crew and band are the same. Like the techs and the band, I don't feel like, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I guess band is like, it's hard to find a drummer and it can be hard to find the right guitar player and all that special. And maybe techs, it's not as hard to find a guitar tech for a tour or something, but I don't feel that way about it. I feel like the techs are like, you're part of the same team, all there to support the artist. That's always the way I've approached it, So it's not like a hierarchy thing or something like that, where I just don't feel that. I love that, I've had I've had problems with crew and stuff in the road, but I've also had problems with band members, generally speaking, I feel like we're all on the same team and everybody's equal, and that's, that's the way I feel. Let's see here. Have you tried the super drums from Eddie Kramer and the new Easy Bass program from TuneTrack? Nope, I haven't. Although I've seen the Eddie Kramer. Is the Eddie Kramer drums? Is that a TuneTrack thing as well? Because I'd like to try that and just load it in if it is. Like if there's an Eddie Kramer kits or something. I didn't know that there was that for TuneTrack. I've got so many great sounds in TuneTrack, to be honest. Like the kits that I have, it's endless, and like the ones that I've been using lately, I'm so stoked on. Like Eddie Kramer, I don't know how more Zeppelin the ones that they can get than the ones that are already in there and stuff. You know, if that's what you know. But I like Eddie and stuff, and I should check it out, I guess. I missed a couple super chats here. Can I get the EVH Echoplex Delay with an Eventide H9? This is Tom. Or a TC Electronic X4? Or do I need something like an MXR EP103 Echoplex pedal? The TC Electronic has pretty good tape delay for sure. I've gotten pretty good tape delay sounds out of there. Eventide H9, maybe. I haven't specifically gone for a really tapey delay in the H9, to be honest. I use the vintage delay a lot, which is more like vintage digital. I think you could... Okay, here's the only problem with an H9 in front of for EVH. They're a little noisy. The Eventide pedals, they're digital. Anytime digital in front of... You guys probably noticed this. If you use anything digital in front of a gainy Marshall or something, it adds a little hiss, and that's just the nature of digital. It's like ADD, D-Day, a little bit of the, and it so the Eventides, the old pedals, the individual delay and mod one they used to make and all that, they also exhibited this. Anybody out there that had them, I'm sure would notice the little bit gainy sounds, and you get more hiss when the pedal's in line. So that's the only thing. I would recommend the Echoplex pedal, man. It's really great. I love it on my board, and I use it actually more than ever now these days. I've been using it a lot. I did a video the other day, something I'm doing with Paul Davids, and I used the Echoplex on that for delay in front. It sounded great. It's just a really good pedal, and they're not super expensive or anything. So if you get it and try it, you'll see. It's fun. Plug the tap switch in, and you can do that little square MXR one, and just you can have it on your board in front, then use the H9 post distortion. That's how I have my setup, and I that's how I prefer it. Loot89 says Sunday fun day up there in the super chat. Thanks, bud. Thanks for doing it. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Thoughts on digital pedals in an amps loop without an analog dry through like the HX Stomp? I'm fine with it. I use H9s in the loop, and I've got 2 of them. I usually set at least 1 for true bypass, so that I'm not incurring an extra A to D conversion if the pedal's not on, But yeah, my pedals are digital in the loop on a lot. DD500 and H9. They sound great. So I don't worry about it too much. If you worry about that stuff a lot, you can always go do the wet dry thing. Go that route and stuff, and have the analog dry path, or use the loop. If you got an amp like PT100, you can switch the loop in parallel, and then you've got a parallel dry path right there. What else we got here? Pete Thorn is a new world man. He's a new world man. Have you had any great sushi lately? Says Todd. I went for sushi the other night. In the valley, there's the original Katsuya, and that's kind of my jam. It was a little not as great the other night for some reason. You ever go for sushi and, you got your favorite place, and then you go and it's like, tonight, not quite. Maybe it's like closing time or something. The rice is a little too cold, been sitting out a little long, something, Rice with sushi is so important, as everybody knows that's a sushi freak. It's gotta be just so the right temperature and all that's very important. And if it ain't quite there, but yeah, it was still good, just not like amazing. So it's been a minute. I think this is part of COVID and stuff, and just dealing with, you know, it can't be easy going to the fish market and buying the fish every day and stuff, and getting, you know, like the struggles of trying to keep a restaurant going right now and stuff. You know, so I've been eating less sushi, you know, that's for sure. I've been eating more at home, and like all of us, right? Eating out less and all that. Yeah. So Hollywood actor said something about here about I take it you lot have already spoken about Guitar Rig 6 that Pete uploaded onto Instagram. Yeah, if you folks didn't see, I put up for folks that joined late, I did a video for Guitar Rig 6. I've made presets for them. If you have Guitar Rig 6, you can give them a try. I got a nice compliment from somebody that said that they had a project that they'd use Guitar Rig on, then they did the upgrade. They had all their individual Guitar Rig tracks. They just switched the sounds over to mine then and remixed it and bounced it out and said it sounded way better. So I thought that was really nice. Nice to know that the presets translate and that other people are going to be able to use them. I got more presets coming for other folks soon. People have been asking me about Helix ones. That's coming really soon, actually. I got to work on that this week. So, yeah. Okay, it's about 1:13. Of course, I'm going to go to 1:30 or so. I was late today. So, yeah, right up till 1:30. Music Store says, will you be doing a live concert stream? Seems to be the going trend for musicians to have online concerts. Would love to see you perform live. You know, I was talking about this with somebody the other day. How do you guys, let's talk about it for a minute. How do you guys feel about live stream concerts? Is it interesting? I know it's kind of all we've got, and there's a sense of, well, let's do the best we can, right? But I have mixed feelings about it. I feel like it's so silent in here right now. And the thought of sitting in here, well, you are all over there and not having any crowd and then playing some songs, it's just not my live experience. I've never done that. That sounds like the most alien, I don't know, like to sit and play a concert. It's just like, I don't know if that'd be fun for me. I don't know if anybody out there finds it. Like, how do we feel about the live streams that people have been doing? Is it good? Is it worth it? Because it's a lot of preparation and stuff, you know? And it's like, maybe it's just my laziness, but I'm not lazy. I work hard, you know? And it's like, I sort of prefer me, you know, my trip, I write songs in here and then I make videos out of them, you know, and then I put them up, and I really enjoy that. Like, I'm totally happy to just continue doing that, writing, coming up with new tracks that I consider demos that could turn into more songs for my next record or whatever. Or even if you just consider the videos themselves, little 1.5 minute songs or 2-minute songs or whatever. I love doing that. And I don't know that I want to take like 2 weeks to not do that and then rehearse a bunch of songs and then do a live stream concert. It's just not my thing. When I get up on stage and play, I want there to be a crowd there, and I want to do it dude, the lights going down and the people, and you walk out and you know, like, I know how to do this. This feels good. There's my pedal board, got my amp, hit a chord, it's loud. There's people, there's faces. That's the experience. I don't know. The other thing just is like something I don't know anything about. But writing a song in a studio I know about, you know, and that sounds like more in my speed. So I don't know that, like, my thing, I think you should look to me more for doing what I do, which is just constantly putting out tracks every week, you know, new music, creating, coming up with melodies, coming up with parts. And that's just sounds like a lot more fun to me than the live stream show. What do you guys think? You guys enjoy it? Yeah, Todd Roy's saying, if you're not into it, then don't do it. It's a lot of hard work, says Fran, but maybe one-off shot for a trial. Timothy says, not the same without the shared experience of all the fans. Buzz is talking about Greg Koch Marshall Trio does a great live stream if you're curious about how good it can be. Maybe I should watch his. But dude, he's a master improviser, and he lives in that world of, like, off the top of his head. You know, Josh, I was gonna say Josh Smith, of course, is Josh Smith, who I had on my show a couple weeks ago. Master improviser, lives to improvise. You know, I'm not the master improviser. I can do it, but I'm not like those guys, you know. Like I write songs more and produce songs a little more. That's kind of my trip that I'm really into. I don't know. It's just like a different thing. So Music Store says guys like Bonamassa have rented a hall and streamed a concert. Get your band together and stream from a stage. It would be epic. Can you imagine the amount of work though? Bonamassa's set up to do that, right? He's got he's been doing it for years, right? I'm not a guy that has a band. I don't have a band. I'd have to get people. Now it's like we got to rehearse. I got to send out the songs. I got to do the. I just don't know if it's my. I'll tell you what. If I had a band and if I had a set of my music put together, and I was touring and active doing that, imagine it would be way easier, right? Because I could just go, guys, let's rehearse these tunes, and let's get it together. We'll go like to, I'll rent mates or something and we'll set it up and it won't be that much work because you're used to it. This is a whole different thing for me. So to dive into, I've played some live shows with bands. You guys saw years ago, I did the Sir show, at NAMM and, had a band there and stuff, but I had to, work hard on that set to get that going and stuff and then get them rehearsed and stuff and then go out and do it. I'd rather wait until I can, can't I just do it when I've got, like a crowd and I can do it in a club and all that. It's just more like for now, I just think, look, like you don't see those guys doing exactly what I do either, right? Writing a track and producing a track or whatever and putting it up every week. That's kind of my thing that I do. And then they've got their thing that they do really well and they're set up to do it and they live to do it. So it's just different. I'm just a different kind of I'm more like a producer, to be honest, that uses the guitar as a vehicle to get songs out. And I'm cool with that. Yes, I'm a guitar player, like probably first and foremost, but I don't know. Hope that makes sense. Just being honest about my honest feelings about it. I don't know. It would take me, I'd be gone for a couple of weeks. I wouldn't be here at least, and that would be all I'd be doing, to get ready for because I'd want it to be great. I can't half-ass stuff. So it'd be like, I'm not just like, let's get together and play some songs. I'd be like, this has to be really, really good. I'm not going to go on and half-ass it or suck so I better practice really hard. So I'd go full on into that world to do a live stream show with no audience there. It's just, I don't know, man. I'm not excited about it, to be honest. Excited to play live, but that's, an easier jump for me because I know what that feels like to go out on stage and play in front of people. Okay, that's enough about that for a while. Jesse Hicks says, thinking of getting an HX Stomp or GT1000 Core H9 for those random tones I occasionally need. What would I lean towards for tone and easy use? That new GT1000 looks really cool. The HX Stomp, also about the same size, also really cool. I haven't tried the GT1000. Obviously, I've got an HX Stomp. Both great all-rounders. I mean, going back to the M9, Line 6 was great for all-rounders. I think maybe the H9 is great at a one at a time thing. So you just have to ask yourself, do you need more than one effect at once? One effect at once, and do you need any drive and stuff? Because I would say that's not really the H9's forte. The H9 is amazing for, God, the Leslie's great, the reverb's great, the delay's great. If I had to do combinations of delay and reverb and stuff, I would probably pick the Stomp or the GT1000. So it depends what you're doing, I would say. Yeah, depends what you're doing. Ask yourself what you're, if it's a multi-effect, you need to go with one of the other ones. If it's a single effects and reverb, delay, Leslie, pitch shift are high on your list, H9 is great. Somebody's asking, it's Natasha, is up there in the top chat. She's asking about, can you mitigate digital noise in your single signal chain with a noise gate at the end? Sort of. I mean, the noise is still there. And when you play quiet, you'll still hear it. When you stop, it'll gate and cut off. And I'm not a big fan of gates, to be honest, but I use them when I need to. Sometimes I use them in here. My main noise reduction box has been this one as of late, which is a gate with a down with a downward expansion, I guess it's called, right? So this is the gate, and then it's like basically as you turn this up, it's got the hush circuit in it, and it's really downward expansion. So it's kind of cutting top end, I think. And as you bring it up, it goes more and more and more into the top end until you hear the noise disappear. And that's probably an oversimplification of how the hush works. but it's at the expense of the sound does get a little duller. It does change your tone just a little bit. They advertise that it doesn't, but it does. So it'll dull your sound a little bit. If you're using a high gain sound, that might not be a problem because it might sound even a little better, like as you're warming it up a little bit on the top end. But there is something a little lossy about it, to be honest, to me. But sometimes that's necessary. So digital noise isn't really. I mean, I'm just saying I wouldn't use, when I was mentioning it earlier, like a little bit of the noise from digital boxes, like something like a Helix adds a little bit of hiss in front of an amp, and H9 adds a little bit of hiss in front of an amp, but you only really notice it if the amp is gainy. So like if you use a Helix 4-cable method, I'm not talking about ground noise here. You got to take care of that by using a isolation transformer from the send on the Helix to the front end of your amp. And that'll kill any ground loop. But beyond that, there's a little bit of hiss that the Helix will add, and you'll hear it in front of gain. If you run a high gain amp, just a little more hiss when you've got that digital thing in line. You won't notice that really in the loop of an amp, because in the loop, it's much, the power amp it's not a lot of gain. It doesn't create there's a lot of volume, but there's not a lot of compression, gain, distortion buildup, in the power amp. So you don't really notice it when you put it in the loop. It's only in front of anything that makes noise. You put it in front of a distortion box or an amplifier that's got a bunch of cascaded gain situation going on. It's just amplifies that noise. So Stealth Parrot says, money, money, money. Pete, are you talking about the live stream? It's like the other thing you guys gotta realize. I know it's not just something. I mean, you don't gotta realize it. I'm not telling you what to do, but I've got boxes here on the floor. Like there's videos that I make. It's kind of my job right now, and the videos that I make is what really pays the rent. As far as manufacturer like Boss or something. Can you make a video for the OD 200, which I have to do next week? Yes. And then I got to do it, and it's and it's sort of, I've created this thing that's what I do now. And it's I don't want to change that model really, because I enjoy it. It works good. And, so it's in other words, I've got this work to do, and it takes a long time. It's days of work to put one of these things together, to write the track, and then to video it all, and then to edit it, even with my homebrew editing style and all that. By the time I get it done, I've put a couple full days of work into every single one. And I'm not complaining at all. I'm super stoked that I have a backlog of this work to do. So I have to get to it. So it's I can't just take the time. It would mean and I've done this before, where it's okay, I need to finish Pete Thorn 2. I need to take this couple weeks to do nothing but finish my record. But then I'm that income and those people that are waiting, I'm going to put them off for a while now. You know what I'm saying? So it's just it's just a decision. And it's sushi fun, says Buzz Wilson. Thanks, Buzz. Appreciate it. Up there in the super chat. Thanks, man. Anyway, so Stefan says, do you still use Corso? I don't have a Corso anymore. I sent the one that I had to Chris Cornell. And the last time when I saw Tony do her video of Hunger Strike in Chris's Miami studio, I saw the amp sitting there. So I would say that Tony Cornell has that amp now. I don't have it anymore. I sent it to him on indefinite loan. And then, of course, awful things happen. He's no longer with us and stuff, but I never got it back again. I'm not about to ask for it. So anyway, that's where that amp is. So let's see what else. Good question. Oh, I missed it. How do I boost volume on stage when I play solos, because they're never loud enough? If your amp is clean, you can run a clean boost at the end of your pedal chain, and you'll hit it and it'll boost into your amp. If you've had problems, hitting it with an overdrive or something, I suspect that you're probably using a gainy amp already and you can't seem to get it loud. Do you have an effects loop on the amp? Because you can put a boost in the effects loop of the amplifier. Any clean boost will do. really. As long as you're not going to, clip it or something, you shouldn't have any problems. So like a good, like a super clean from Exotic or something like that, or a Sur ISO boost, or MXR microamp for that matter, in the loop of an amplifier will allow you to gain boost, once again into a power amp. It's clean, so it's not compressed, and you can boost and get a little bit of a little bit of a lift, right? So do you think you would be more famous? I don't know. Can't do an English accent right now. If you started talking in a British accent, I don't know if I would be more famous. I sometimes wonder if I'd be more famous if I've just moved to England, because I am kind of like a big Johnny Marr fan, and maybe I should have just gone over there and played in bands in the UK. Everything would be different. What would I recommend for an early rush Alex Lifeson rig on a budget? Probably something like a little Marshall DSL 40 or something like that, and get a. I'll tell you what, I got a great kind of Alexy chorus. Was the Anodyne chorus from Providence. That sounded great, I thought. But you could also get a Mistress style flange, Electric Mistress Deluxe or whatever we used. Can't remember, but there's different ones now you can get from Electro Harmonics. Use something like that. You need a delay. Just get a Boss like a DD200 or something like that, and then get a compressor for the cleaner stuff. Dynacomp, something similar. Where, like I say, like an analog chorus, something like that, and you get pretty good Alex tones with that. You might need a what else? I don't know. Did Alex use a wah much? I guess he did a little bit, right? Might need one of those. Did you ever hire a video helper? Is it time to expand the company? I'm such a control freak. I just like to do it myself. I don't know. When it's like, you want to do something right, you do it yourself. I know what I like, and so it's hard. But Fran Cardo says, have you tried Lincoln Brewster's new Strat? Just looks so good, like his playing. I called him a little while ago, and he called me because he wanted to ask me something, and so he got my number from a mutual friend, and then I didn't get a chance to call him back for a bit, and then I called him, and I got his machine, and we never connected, and I feel bad about it. I hope he's not mad at me. And no, I haven't seen his new Strat, but that's the truth. You reminded me I should call him again and check in and just make sure he's not pissed at me for not calling him back right away. Thoughts on the new Kenny Wayne Shepherd signature Strat? I think it looks great. Maybe we should look at some of these and see. I haven't seen it. Let's take a look at Kenny Wayne Shepherd signature Fender. I have not seen it. It's got funny inlays, doesn't it? It's a little bit like, I feel like it's a little like Fender's take on the PRS Silver Sky. Has anybody seen this guitar? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I got mixed feelings about the blocks. Maybe I don't have mixed feelings. Maybe I'm just not a huge fan. I don't know why I said the PRS thing. I don't know. It's just like different or something. But yeah. Poutine, says Ben Coombs. You know where it's at, man. Let's see here. What else we got? What's the best Strat on a budget? Well, that's hard, but I mean, God, dude, there's so many. I would probably pick a good, used made in Mexico Fender 50s or 60s Strat, that style of really good guitar that you could probably find readily for, if I looked right now, I wonder what, let's look on Reverb and see. Reverb.com. Strat. Oh, that doesn't, I guess you can't Well, I put Stray, made in Mexico. There we go. Okay, let's take a look here and see. I mean, like, there's guitars on here all day long from $200 plus to $595, $375. You know, I'm seeing like hundreds of guitars on here. I would probably pick. I thought that the 50s and 60s ones that were made over there were always like really nice. Yeah, pretty good guitars. What's the with the thin skin finish 64 or 65 Strat that they came out with like a few years ago, like 2011, 2012, 2013. I played them. They had a nice big chunky neck on them and stuff, and they had kind of the 65 style logo on them. Those guitars looked really beautiful to me. It seemed like a good, I'd probably find one of those. Classic vibe 50s or 60s. That's a made in China, I think, but those guitars feel incredible for the money, yeah, any Mexican made Strat and some pickups, says Glenn. I would agree, Brett says, I see Laurie is now with Ibanez. I saw that. Yeah, she's got a signature Ibanez guitar that she's doing. I wish her well. I wish she would have stayed using her Sir, I don't know. The music business. I'm just more a Sir guy. That's me. But, I'm a loyal guy, makes amazing guitars, and I don't know how, that I like the Ibanez folks. I know some of the folks at Ibanez, and they've obviously got a lot of great endorsers, good people there. I love that the guy is right. He's an hour and 20 minutes from here, and I can go over there and hang with him. He'll make me pizza. And he knows guitars and amps, as you guys know, like nobody else. And he's just a treasure. So it's hard to get around that because he's not going to screw around with the attention to detail is going to be extraordinary and all that. You guys know my spiel. So I guess it's what's important to you when you're getting a signature guitar, and what's important to me is all that stuff. And I just, there's, they're not the fastest company in the world at getting things done. They're not the biggest company. He's a little bit of a, you want to do it right, you do it yourself. And because of that, he's very busy and he's got a lot of stuff going on, so they're not the fastest company at getting stuff done. They don't have the resources in some ways of a company like Ibanez or, because they're just not that big. They're not that big globe. They're not making guitars in Indonesia and there's nothing wrong with that. But just for me personally, I don't mind, that attention to detail. I mean, it's taken a long time for the Auras to all get done because he's finishing every one to the same thing that got him fired from a job at a guitar tech in New Jersey. Yeah, as a guitar tech in New Jersey at a store in, the late 70s, early 80s, late 70s, I guess, because he was too slow and meticulous and they wanted to turn around more work is the reason that I stay with him, because I love that. He's not going to, you can't put a price. He's just, it's in his DNA. So I need that, so for me, I don't know. What guitar would you use aside from a 335? It's an interesting question. Like for a different style of that guitar. I mean, I played a lot of nice semi-hollows. I would say like a Collings, maybe. Seen some really beautiful ones that are that style. You just made me think of some of the Ibanez's. Actually, it's funny because I think about like the early 80s, some of the Art Star, whatever, like, what are the hollow bodies like Schofield used to play and stuff? They were pretty cool. I don't have a hell of a lot of experience with semi-hollows outside of Gibson. Yaron sure makes a hell of a 335. I would probably have him do it if money was no object. Yeah, Collings is probably, I've seen some beautiful Collings style 335s. They make great guitars. I know John's a fan of too, and he's a really big fan of the Collings guitars. He actually has one. So, when he appreciates, he also likes Germinio a lot for, he's like, yeah, absolutely. Like that guy he knows what he's doing. He makes a great amp. So one of the reasons why I got that one actually, because it was a good price and I know he was a fan, and sure enough, you get it. It's built like a brick shithouse on the inside. It's fantastic, so I like nice stuff, quality, handmade. Stefan says, would you imagine going completely digital? If, I have gone completely digital if the gig dictated it, just by, not even dictated it, but it was just like the way to, like going to the Philippines with Mandy Moore in 2003. I remember, like, we could rent amps, but I'm like, I've never been to Manila and rented anything. I don't know what's going to show up. What if it's a pop gig? What if I just use this pod right here and program my sounds? I got a foot controller for it. I can fit it all in a backpack and take it all. And I did that. And of course, it went off without a hitch, and it was fine, and everybody was happy, and no one got hurt. And I used a pod bean in front of like 50,000 people. It sounded fine for her music. It was like, it's not like guitar rock. If I was doing a full on AC/DC set or something like that, I probably might not have done that. I might have figured something else, but it was good for the time. And now with something like a Helix, I mean, it really is to that point with some of these things where I still love my amps. I love my amps. I don't ever want to love them on stage or stuff like that. But in a big PA out front in a mix, it does get hard to tell. Let's be honest. I mean, it does. That's just why Metallica and stuff switches to, because they're like, well, this is basically doing the job. So they axe effects it, because they're good. So it's more about the business end of it that dictates it. I still, there's no substitute for me for turning around, being able to grab the knob that says treble and turn it up, and amp smells good. It's got tubes in there, and the sound coming out of the speakers and all that, and the volume. That's my comfort zone. But now let's talk about the business and what the gig dictates and stuff. And sometimes it just means like, yeah, I probably should go direct and use a digital thing for this particular gig. And that's when you do that, So, have you heard of the Shredder, Justin Derrico of Pink? Dude is badass. Dude, he is so badass. He's such a great guitar player. I know Justin pretty well. I mean, not like super well, but I got his number in my phone. He's a good guy. He's a sweet dude, really successful. And he is so badass. Yeah, he's a ridiculous guitar player. Totally agree. Todd Roy says, thanks. Stay safe. Great chat. Thanks, man. Thanks for being here. It's 1:40. I better go, guys, pretty soon here. I'll take a few more and then I got to split. I didn't realize the last 20 minutes went like nothing. I noticed the aux amp on your shelf says bent. I've been thinking of getting one in my studio. Is it the best unit? Best is so hard to, it's a great thing. My favorite reactive load box is the Sur. It's great. And if you're doing a lot of the extra stuff like reverb and compression or anything like that in the computer, that's when I use the Sur for the main thing. I've used the aux a lot on my last record. It's got great effects built in and stuff. So if you need, it depends what you want, and what you're doing. Depends how much you want to spend. It is a great all-in-one solution though. And a lot of guys, if you need an all-in-one thing and a one-stop shop, the aux is killer. If you can swing the coin, it's a really good device. And I don't use the attenuator in it or anything like that, but it's unique and it's cool. It's really good. It's funny, I just realized I haven't looked at the front panel of it for like realizing there's the room knob on there. So because I do it all in software. I use I don't even look at the thing, I use the app, and the app is brilliant. And that's where, if you like that kind of stuff and getting in there and, being able to, the room mics is the one thing in the aux that I should mention. Being able to blend in a room. If I want to do any kind of like, like where you'd hear a bunch of room on a Brian May solo, the aux is brilliant for that. It's just instant. Yep, let's use that. And by the way, the AC30 style cabinet in the aux is really stellar, really great. So if you want to do a Brian May style tone, it's a great thing to use. So there's certain things just terrific for. The delay is really nice in it. The reverb is really nice in it. And the room mics. So I do really like it. What's up, Peter Evans? You did the top chat. Thank you, dude. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for doing the super chat. You're too kind. Thanks, man. Thank you guys for all you guys that have done the super chat today. I really appreciate it. I should always mention, I guess, my I've got a link to Sweetwater down in the video description below. If you click that, it helps support the channel. If you need strings or drumsticks or guitar picks or a kazoo, it's always helpful. Thanks so much, Peter. Appreciate it. And Peter's also mentioned getting me to 200,000. I'm just 900 short or something of 200,000 subscribers now on YouTube. So yeah, now almost there to the 200,000 mark. I don't know what that means, if I'll feel any different. I doubt it, but it'd be nice to get there just as a milestone. It took me a long time, maybe from the dawn of the channel, 2006 until 2017. So 11 years it took to get to 100,000 subscribers. It was a slow build. And then it took about 3 to get to 200,000. So I guess that's good. Maybe I can get to 300,000 in a year and a half or something. That would be nice. I would love that. I guess that's up to me, right? I got to do hard work and make sure this stuff stays interesting. And I promise I'll do that. I promise. Rico USA is up there in the super chat. Thanks, buddy. He says, I own about 16. Wow. 500 series mic pre's, compressors, and reverb. That's awesome. Those are fun. They're like the pedals of the recording world, little toys. Would you suggest adding 500 series EQs or sticking with my plugins? If so, which EQ? Probably if I'm sure you can get an SSL style EQ for 500 series, right? I would probably get that, and I would probably get a 1073 style EQ, because then you'd have it all. That's the too big, you know. Maybe an API 560 is pretty rad too. I love using those on guitar. It's a graphic, right? So that's nice. And these are the same things I use in plugins, by the way. If I want to get more surgical, SSL. If I want to do sweetening, Neve 1073 or 1081 can be even, you know, basically there's no downside to going 1081. You just get a little bit more options. 1073 and 1081 for those out there that don't know, the Neve style EQs, and the 1073 came a little sooner. It was, I think, a 12K fixed top end band, adjustable mid with about 4 or 5 different frequencies you could pick for the mid range, and then the lows. I'm forgetting, the lows are adjustable on a. Yeah, lows are adjustable on a 1073, right? Between like 80 and I can't remember, but anyways, you know, the 1081 just gives you more options as far as, you know, the switchable top end band and all that stuff. Sticking with your plugins, I use plugins for everything. I don't have a great desire to get more 500 series stuff. I've got a few things. I've got 4 500 series modules, a couple mic pre's, and a compressor and a reverb. I do everything in the box almost these days. It's the way I work. It's fast. But the 500 series, I get it. If you're into recording stuff, it's fun. Folks don't know what a 500 series is. I guess I should have gone back to the beginning. You buy this chassis, right? And then you can slip modules into it. Kind of like if you're into the Synergy amp thing where you slip the modules in, that's what 500 series is, but for recording gear. You slip the modules in, you can buy ones from different companies into a chassis, and then there's ins and outs on the back, and you can get like a whole bunch of different mic pre's or compressors or EQs and plug them in together. And it's kind of like building your own, it's not a console, but building your own input chains. So they're a little like guitar pedals, but for recording. That's how I think of it. Thanks, man, for doing the super chat. Vincent's up there, and he says coffee. I get that. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. We love the coffee. We do. Have I played a hook amp? Not yet. I have not. I'd like to give him a try one of these days. Like it or not, but says, my favorite rock star. Dude, I'm a guy that plays with rock stars. That's what I am. I'm the sport. It's hard for me to not think of myself that way. It's weird being an artist. Like, oh, I'm Pete Thorn, and showing up and being the guy, like at clinics or anything or gigs or whatever, you know, I end up doing. It's like, it's because I just did the side guy thing for so long. So I always think of myself that way. Evan Ward says, speaking of AC/DC, I just scored a Schaefer. Good stuff. In general, should bridge singles be used in the neck position on an HSS style setup? You bring up a good point. Like a hotter single coil can be helpful, but if you love the tone of it depends whether you want to balance the humbucker with the singles and that's your primary concern? Or is your primary concern that you love the sound of a certain neck pickup? Because if you like the sound of a lower output Strat pickup, it's not going to be exactly the same. It's going to be a little middier, a little darker. You might not get the in-between position that you crave as much. I would get, if you're concerned about output stuff, go V60 LP from Sir. It's got the greasiest mids and works well with overdrive and probably couples with a humbucker the best out of the ones that I've tried. Your point though is valid, and if you look at somebody like Jakey Lee, and I've actually played his guitar, he's got the DiMarzio SDS1 single coils, which are ceramic magnet and kind of hot single coil, and then he's got a JB in the bridge, and lo and behold, they balance. It's like probably one of the best balanced HSS style. That guy's smart. Jakey Lee. Like, a lot of the things he did were, the way he angled pickups and uses different fret sizes and stuff like that on the guitar. He's got 6100s all the way up and slightly smaller ones from I think the 15 fret on up, more 6105 size. Because his guitar is 24 3/4 scale. It's actually Gibson scale length. And then the hot singles. It's truly a very custom guitar geared towards him. His thing. It's funny though, because the one that Charvel actually makes is not 24 3/4. It's 25.5, and it's not his exact guitar. And I don't know why they do that, but it's interesting. What else? I gotta run. Doug Ward's gotta run, so that means I gotta run too. If Doug's going, I'm going. Yeah. Speaking of AC/DC, have you heard the new teaser? I forgot to bring that up. Did you guys see new AC/DC this week? Hear new AC/DC? There's a little bit on Instagram. So cool. That was this week was stressful as hell, right? For a lot of people. And like the AC/DC thing popping up was like, oh, it took me out of the zone for a minute, and it was really pleasant, to get it out of all the crazy news and stuff like that, the news cycle. So I love that AC/DC is doing that, and that they've got everybody there. It's everybody that could be, except for Malcolm, and that's not an option. So it's the best thing, and they got Stevie there, keeping the young name intact in the AC/DC, and we got to love that. So I will be buying that and cranking it. There's no doubt. They look happy. They look stoked. The picture's great, and the song sounds cool too. The one they posted. Check it out on Instagram if you haven't seen it. You can see it there. It's probably on their Facebook and stuff too, I would assume. I'm excited. Totally excited. I love AC/DC. I mean, God, don't want them to ever go away. Of course, that's impossible. Everybody goes away eventually, but it's just so rad. They got the whole band back together, and Phil's there. Damn. It's exciting. Yeah. I'm just looking through the chat here to see if there's anyone else see if I'm missing anything. Then I'm going to split. Nigel says he's looking for inspiration, wants to change from his Princeton Strat blues. Hey, man, that guy. If you want something dirty and kind of fun with a Strat, the Ombre, give that a try. Similar size as a Princeton, and it's not too expensive. They're around, I can't remember if it's $1,400, $1,500, or $1,600, but it's somewhere in there. So, what a fun amp, I've had the most fun. If you're a blues player, you'll go crazy. It's really, really a lot of fun to play through. If I had the money, would I have bought one of Dave Gilsmore's guitars? No, I would have bought a house. I would have bought a studio on the River Thames, the River Thames. How do you say it? Like David has. If I had enough money to buy one of his guitars, I'd have a floating. You guys know that he's got a floating studio, right? He's got a studio boat on the river. That's pretty cool. Stephen Douglas just poured another coffee. Let's do another hour. Oh, I can't, man. I got to split. I'm sorry. JD Analog says his Marshall, wow, 9059 hand-wired full stack 8 greenies set to just break up on both volumes, control volume with guitar volume, little reverb, stand 4 inches from speakers, and with back to it. Nothing like it. That's the feeling. That's the feeling that you just can't get without doing it. That's true. And on that note, you guys, Thames sounds like Thames. Thames. Thames sounds like Thames. Sorry for all you Brits out there. I'm half kidding, but I used to say Thames, but I should say Thames, right? Okay. Thank you. I got to try and remember that so that I don't sound like a complete moron the next time I travel over there or any other time. Evan Ward says Airborne wouldn't exist without AC/DC. Damn right. All right. Guys, rock on. I'll see you next week. Remember, 25th, 3 weeks from now, Peter Frampton will be my guest here. We'll talk about his new book. I'm going to read it before then, and so that I'm up on what's going on in his world. Can't wait to have him on the show. It's going to be fun. Everybody have a great week. Got more videos coming this week. A bunch of videos. The video about the York Audio IRs will be coming out maybe tomorrow. I think it should be out tomorrow, if not Tuesday. I'm going to try and finish it for tomorrow. And I got more coming from Headrush. I got a looper from Headrush as well as full range cabinets. I got to do a video for Donner Prince rotary pedal, some JHS stuff coming, some other stuff that I just have had that I got to get to. I got so much I got to get to. Oh my God. Jet phaser, all kinds of stuff. I'll do a new amps in the zone soon too. Okay. Bye.